The waters of the Maldives pulsed with life, shimmering with an almost surreal clarity. It was April 18, 2010, and for Mason Greystone, a day that started with promise held a tinge of restless energy. He adjusted his mask, the familiar weight of dive gear a comforting counterpoint to his unease. Oceanic whitetips were infamous here. Sleek and formidable, they were the open ocean's opportunistic hunters. Attacks on humans were rare but not unheard of. And today Mason was going it alone. His usual dive buddy, Sarah, was busy with work, leaving him alone to explore a remote section of the reef. He wasn't afraid. He trusted his skills honed over years in the water. But something about the vast expanse, the yawning depths, made his heart beat a little faster. It was a primal response, a reminder that he was a visitor in a realm beyond his complete understanding. Mason was different from most divers. He wasn't driven solely by the thrill of the underwater world. The loss had shaped him. A car accident 5 years ago had taken his wife and young son. Ever since, he'd chased a sense of freedom and escape that only the ocean could provide. Deep down, the risk was part of it. A way to feel the sting of life when everything else felt muted and distant. The descent was beautiful. Shoals of vibrant fish swirled past like living confetti. The reef rose from the seafloor, a fantastical fortress of coral. He checked his air, his dive computer ticking down the minutes. Everything seemed normal. Then he spotted it. The shark materialized out of the blue, sleek and powerful. It circled slowly, its black eye fixed on him. Mason felt a surge of excitement mixed with a flicker of primal fear. He watched as it drew closer, its movements both graceful and menacing. His mind raced. He knew the protocols. Stay calm, don't provoke, maintain eye contact. But alone, at this depth, he was acutely aware of his vulnerability. He was far from the surface, and his air was dwindling with every breath. The shark moved faster than anticipated. It darted forward, a blur of gray against the blue. Mason reacted instinctively, kicking out and blocking the animal with his fins. There was a jarring impact, and then a jolt of pain shot through his left leg. His heart hammered against his ribs. The shark had clamped onto his calf, its teeth tearing into his flesh. He lashed out blindly, his movements clumsy in the water. The world was a swirl of fear, pain, and the coppery taste of blood. He kicked, twisting to break the shark's grip, but it held fast. Panic threatened to consume him. His air was dwindling rapidly. He was being dragged deeper, away from the surface, with no hope of rescue. His vision blurred as his lungs screamed for oxygen. Desperately, he reached for his dive knife. He fumbled, his fingers numb with cold and terror. The shark thrashed, dragging him further down. His thoughts became a whirlwind of fragmented images. His son's laughter, the glint of sunlight on water, and the space beside him where his wife used to be. With a last surge of strength, he brought the knife down. It struck the shark with a glancing blow, but the creature flinched. The pressure on his leg eased for a split second. It was enough. Mason pushed upwards, kicking away with all his remaining might. Then he was spiraling toward the surface. Lungs heaving, vision tunneling, he didn't care about the shark, about anything except the next breath. His hand broke through the surface and he gulped down sweet, life-giving air. He scanned the water wildly, but the shark was gone. He was alone, bobbing in the ocean, miles from any boat or shore. He checked his leg. Blood welled from ragged wounds, the salt water mingling with it in a stinging burn. The taste of copper was thick on his tongue. Fear morphed into icy determination. He inflated his dive vest, keeping himself afloat. Pain surged through his body with every kick, but he forced himself to keep moving. He willed himself to focus, ignore the creeping terror, and think of the one thing that mattered: survival. The time he stretched into eternity. The sun beat down, his wounded leg throbbed in agony, and his air dwindled with alarming speed. He watched the horizon with desperate hope, willing a boat, any vessel, to appear. Then, like a mirage, a speck emerged against the vast blue. A boat. The sound of the engine drowned out his hoarse cry. Were they too far? Would they see him? Hope flared, quickly followed by the cold pang of despair. But the boat changed course, heading directly for him. Rescue, against all odds, was coming. As they pulled him onto the deck, relief washed over him in a dizzying wave. He had survived. Hours later, in a hospital bed far from the open ocean, the full impact of his ordeal hit him. The pain was manageable now, and the blood loss was treated. But the psychological wounds, the fear, the brush with his mortality, would be with him long after the physical scars began to fade. The ocean, once his escape, was now tainted with a new, terrifying edge. Yet somewhere deep inside, a spark of determination still flickered. He knew he'd return to the water, but the next time it would be with a more profound respect for the unforgiving nature of the deep. A determined young swimmer named Emily Reynolds lived in the peaceful coastal town of Harbor Bay, where the salty smell of the sea mixed with the cries of seagulls flying high above. Ever since she was a little girl, Emily dreamed of becoming an Olympic champion, and every time she swam, she chased that dream with all her might. With Coach Thompson guiding her and her teammates by her side, she dedicated herself to perfecting her swimming skills, spending hours in the pool. Emily's journey to becoming a promising athlete was a testament to her unyielding commitment and natural talent. Growing up in a family of passionate swimmers, she took to the water like she was born for it, effortlessly gliding through the pool with grace. Coach Thompson was the first to notice her exceptional abilities, seeing the potential for greatness hidden within her. Their paths intertwined in a twist of fate. Emily's love for swimming led her to a local competition where Coach Thompson searched for fresh talent. Enthralled by her performance and inspired by her unwavering determination, he offered to mentor her, setting them on a journey to bring them to the edge of Olympic glory. Together, they delved into a demanding training routine crafted to push Emily beyond her boundaries and unleash her full capabilities. At the core of their method was a bold decision to venture into the bay's open waters, guided by Coach Thompson's belief in the transformative force of nature's elements. Embracing the ocean's unpredictable currents and vast expanses, Emily learned to harness its wild energy, refining her instincts and fortifying her determination with each challenging session. As the highly anticipated regional championship drew nearer, Emily felt the weight of expectations settling heavily on her shoulders. Excitement and nervousness mingled within her, fueling her determination to succeed. And so it was with a rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins that Emily embraced the cool embrace of the ocean, her strong strokes cutting through the precise depths with precision and elegance. However, as she reached the midpoint of her training route, a sudden shadow lurking beneath the surface shattered the peaceful atmosphere, sending a wave of fear rippling through her. In a heart-stopping moment, a colossal silhouette emerged. It was a giant shark, its predatory instincts awakened by the presence of a lone swimmer in its territory. Panic seized Emily's heart as she battled against the primal urge to flee, her mind reeling with disbelief at the unexpected turn of events. Meanwhile, on the shore, Coach Thompson watched in horror as the terrifying scene unfolded. His heart pounded with dread and determination as Emily's form vanished beneath the turbulent waves. With swift resolve, he rallied Emily's teammates, their faces etched with concern and resolve, urging them to spring into action and call for help to rescue their endangered friend. In the tumultuous waters, Emily's senses were overwhelmed by the chaos erupting around her. The sudden attack caught her completely by surprise, the shark striking from her blind spot with alarming speed. She felt the piercing pain of its teeth sinking into her flesh, followed by a forceful pull as it dragged her deeper into the abyss. Panic surged through her veins as she fought desperately to break free, every movement driven by raw instinct and adrenaline. As Emily's battle for survival intensified, each motion became a frantic attempt to outwit the relentless predator. With every passing second, her strength dwindled, her lungs aching for air as she grappled against the unforgiving grip of the ocean's embrace. The weight of the water pressed down on her, threatening to crush not only her body but her spirit as well. When hope seemed to fade, a glimmer of salvation emerged on the horizon. It was a rescue boat manned by Harbor Bay's vigilant lifeguards. They raced against the relentless current to pluck Emily from the jaws of impending danger. The lifeguards dove into the water and repeatedly pierced the shark's skin until it swam away. Now fueled by adrenaline and determination, Emily fought fiercely against the encroaching darkness, her vision blurring as she struggled to stay conscious. At last, strong arms extended to haul her from the water, lifting her limp body onto the safety of the rescue boat. Gasping for breath, Emily lay there as her teammates crowded around, their faces a mix of relief and worry. The lifeguards sprang into action, swiftly applying first aid to staunch the flow of blood from her wounds and assess the severity of her injuries. Emily's heart pounded as she struggled to comprehend the chaos that had unfolded, her mind reeling from the near-death experience. Yet, amidst the pain and confusion, one thought burned brightly within her. She had survived against all odds, and nothing would deter her from her dreams. In short, she was overcome by a rush of emotions: relief, gratitude, and a newfound understanding of life's fragility. In the days and weeks that followed, Emily's journey to recovery was marked by both physical agony and emotional turmoil. Evacuated to the hospital in a whirlwind of activity, she underwent emergency surgery to mend the extensive damage. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as skilled surgeons worked tirelessly to preserve her life, fueled by the realization that every moment was critical in her fight for survival. Emerging from the fog of anesthesia, Emily weakened herself in body and mind. Ahead of her stretched a daunting path marked by uncertainty and setbacks, brimming with hope and opportunity. Days turned into weeks of extended hospital stays and grueling physical therapy sessions as she battled to reclaim her strength and movement. Each small triumph served as a testament to her unwavering determination and resilience. Throughout her journey, Emily found solace in the steadfast support of her coach, teammates, and the close-knit community of Harbor Bay. Their words of encouragement and gestures of kindness acted as beacons of light during her darkest hours, reminding her that she was never alone in her struggle. With their steadfast belief in her abilities, she discovered the inner strength to persevere. A newfound sense of purpose indeed bolstered her determination. Yet, as Emily teetered on the edge of returning to the water, she grappled with a profound dilemma. Was pursuing athletic glory worth the inherent risks and sacrifices? Ultimately, she realized that the answer lay not in pursuing medals or accolades, but in the unwavering passion that ignited within her soul. This fiery passion propelled her forward, urging her to transcend the boundaries of fear and uncertainty. During her rehabilitation, Emily sought the guidance of a therapist who helped her navigate the complex emotions and psychological scars left by the traumatic experience. Through intensive counseling and unwavering support, she gradually rebuilt her confidence and sense of self-worth, reclaiming her identity as an athlete and finding comfort in the healing power of resilience and determination. With each passing day, Emily grew more robust, physically and emotionally stronger, her spirit undeterred by the challenges she had encountered. She also understood that her journey was far from complete, and that the ocean, with all its beauty and peril, still held countless adventures waiting to be explored. But then, one fateful day, 6 months after her attack, Emily plunged back into the open water with renewed determination and unwavering resolve. Her strokes were fluid and powerful as she embraced the vast possibilities within her. She understood that it wasn't merely reaching a destination that defined her, but also about the entire journey. Jackson Walker had always been a city boy. He thrived amidst the concrete and the crowds, finding a strange energy within the urban sprawl. Numbers were his forte, calculations his comfort zone. A successful financial analyst, his life followed a carefully crafted plan. Measured risks, steady routines, and predictable outcomes. He was a man who built his world with spreadsheets and stock market trends, not ocean currents and coral reefs. But Sarah, his relentlessly cheerful girlfriend, was a force of nature he couldn't quite quantify. She craved open spaces and unexpected turns. Her proposal of a getaway to the Turks and Caicos Islands was less a suggestion, more a vibrant exclamation point on their meticulously ordered calendar. It was the 22nd of September 2010, his first full day in this Caribbean paradise, and he was already questioning every decision that led him to this moment. This morning he bobbed awkwardly in water so clear he could see straight to the vibrant coral below. Snorkeling had been Sarah's idea, a relaxing way to enjoy the marine life. Yet with water lapping at his ears and an uncomfortable plastic tube in his mouth, relaxation felt out of reach. The nagging tickle of fear in the back of his mind wouldn't subside. Out here, he was out of his depth, literally and figuratively. The reef teemed with life so colorful it seemed unreal. Schools of fish darted around him in shimmering clouds, utterly unfazed by his presence. The sunlight filtering down felt deceptively warm, masking the undercurrent of chilly water. Yet the beauty outweighed the discomfort, at least for now. The other tourists seemed at ease in the water, laughing and pointing out unusual creatures to each other. Jackson felt a pang of envy mixed with self-judgment. Sarah would have been entirely in her element here. He imagined her graceful figure cutting through the water, her laughter echoing off the distant cliffs. Yet he was the type to analyze risks, calculate odds, and hedge his bets. This spontaneous foray into the ocean felt like the opposite of control. Mako sharks were known to cruise the deep waters around these islands. Sleek and swift, they were the cheetahs of the sea, built for speed and power. Jackson was well aware of their presence, even as he told himself the chances of an attack were slim. His guide, a seasoned local named Theo, reassured him of their safety measures. Still, a nagging feeling of unease persisted. Sarah would have labeled it wrong intuition. He preferred to call it risk assessment. Beneath the surface, a large shape detached itself from the gloom below the reef. It moved with deceptive speed, streamlined and powerful. Jackson's breath hitched in his snorkel. Theo was nowhere to be seen. His heart pounded a frantic rhythm. It was too big to be a harmless reef shark, and its silhouette was unmistakable. A Mako, and it was heading straight for him. Time warped around Jackson. The world narrowed down to him, the panicked beating of his heart and the impossibly fast approach of the shark. His clumsy, snorkeling movements were no match for the predator's efficient glide. The Mako closed the distance in a blink. Its jaws opened in a grotesque display of needle-like teeth. In that split second, everything Jackson thought he knew about the world shattered. Out here, spreadsheets and logic meant nothing. He was prey, plain and simple. Survival instinct took over. He kicked frantically, adrenaline masking the icy shock of the water. His lungs screamed at him to surface to signal for help, but the Mako was relentless in its pursuit. He had read about playing dead if confronted by a bear, but could the same trick fool a shark? Desperation drove him to try. He went limp, his arms floating at his sides, hoping the lack of struggle would fool the predator. The Mako circled him closely, its eye a chilling black marble. Then, to his utter horror, it rammed him hard, knocking him violently through the water. It was only a warning, the actual attack was yet to come. He surfaced, choking on a mixture of seawater and terror. He thrashed wildly, screaming for help that seemed agonizingly far away. His rational mind knew that frantic movements could attract the shark, but reason lost its hold in this fight for life. Suddenly, he spotted Sarah. She was snorkeling a distance away, blissfully unaware of the danger approaching her. His voice cracked into a strangled yell, a desperate bid to warn her. The Mako, however, had found a new target. Jackson watched helplessly as the shark surged towards his girlfriend. The time he stretched agonizingly slow. He tried swimming towards her, his clumsy strokes pitifully ineffective against the shark's power. Sarah saw it at the last moment, her carefree expression replaced with stark terror. Suddenly Theo appeared from nowhere, wielding a long spear. With practiced precision, he thrust it towards the Mako, forcing the predator to veer away from Sarah. Sarah scrambled onto a patch of exposed coral, sobs catching in her throat. Jackson's focus snapped back to his desperate situation. Theo was a skilled spear fisherman, but one man against a Mako shark was a dangerous gamble. He swam towards them, his body screaming with exhaustion. He needed to get out of the water even if it meant leaving Theo behind. He was about to yell this cowardly thought when he saw it. Blood bloomed in the water around Theo. The shark, angered by the spear, had come back for vengeance. A thrashing form was barely visible amidst the crimson cloud. He could do nothing but watch in horror as a man who had been a comforting presence minutes ago was now lost in a frenzy of teeth and churning water. Suddenly the boat appeared, alerted by his earlier shouts and the ensuing chaos. Strong hands gripped him, hauling his waterlogged body over the railing to safety. He collapsed onto the deck, sobs of terror and relief escaping him. As they sped back to shore, he caught a glimpse of the retreating Mako, its silhouette a dark smudge against the azure water. Sarah clung to him, her cries muffled against his chest. In the aftermath, there was the hurried treatment for his minor cuts and bruises, the questioning by concerned officials, and the numb shock wearing off into bone-deep terror. None of that felt real compared to the sight of the empty water where Theo once was. Once a source of vibrant beauty, the ocean was now tainted with the crimson hue of violence. He knew he was lucky to be alive. His vacation, his old life, felt like a distant memory, shattered by a predator's cold, calculating eyes. It would take time and probably a lot of therapy before he could even look at photos of water. let alone venture into it again. The Mako shark had not just claimed a victim. It had stolen a piece of Jackson's spirit, leaving a deep, jagged wound that might never truly heal. The Brisbane River in Australia was a place of serene beauty, where the gentle currents lapped against the shores and the sun painted the waters with shimmering hues. It was here that Andre Juarez, a seasoned fisherman, found solace and joy in the simple act of casting his line into the river's depths. Fishing was more than a hobby for Andre. It was a way of life, a connection to the natural world that ran deep in his veins. Andre, a rugged man with weathered hands that told the story of countless days spent on the river, cherished his moments of solitude with the water. Yet he also found immense joy in sharing this passion with his family and friends. The river was a place of bonding, where stories were exchanged, laughter echoed, and the camaraderie of those who loved the outdoors thrived. On a clear and sunny day, the Brisbane River glistens like a jewel under the Australian sun. He loaded his fishing gear onto his small boat, a vessel with its fair share of adventures, and pushed off from the shore. The rhythmic sound of his oars breaking the water's surface was music to his ears. The day held promise, and Andre felt a familiar anticipation as he cast his line into the river. The fishing was good, and he reveled in the peaceful rhythm of the river. Time seemed to stretch as he lost himself in the ebb and flow of the water, the gentle bobbing of his boat, and the promise of the catch. As the sun slowly descended towards the horizon, casting long shadows across the river, Andre's senses were suddenly jolted by a powerful force beneath the surface. Without warning, a massive bull shark, a formidable predator of the Australian waters, surged upwards, jaws agape, and clamped its teeth around Andre's leg. Pain seared through Andre's body as he grappled with the shocking reality of the attack. In an instant, his world had transformed from one of tranquility to one of chaos and terror. The shark's grip was relentless, and with a swift, savage motion, it severed an artery in Andre's leg. Blood poured into the water, dyeing it a deep crimson, and Andre knew that his life hung in the balance. Summoning every ounce of strength and willpower, Andre managed to wrench his leg free from the shark's grasp. He kicked and thrashed, fighting to stay afloat in the water as he bled profusely. Desperation gripped him as he swam towards the shore, his vision growing dim and his consciousness slipping away. In those critical moments, as Andre's life teetered on the edge, a group of kayakers happened upon the harrowing scene. Their shouts and gasps of horror filled the air as they witnessed the bloodied fisherman struggling in the water. They wasted no time, acting swiftly and decisively to save a risky life. One of the kayakers, a quick-thinking individual with a first aid kit, improvised a tourniquet, binding it tightly above the wound on Andre's leg. The makeshift tourniquet stemmed the flow of blood. With the help of others, they carefully lifted the injured fisherman into one of the kayaks. With every paddle stroke, they raced against time, the situation's urgency etched on their faces. The nearest hospital was their destination, and they knew that Andre's survival depended on reaching medical help as quickly as possible. Andre's world faded in and out of consciousness as the kayakers pushed forward, their efforts fueled by a shared determination to save a life. He was vaguely aware of their reassuring voices, encouragement, and unwavering resolve. Hours later, they arrived at the hospital, where a team of skilled medical professionals stood ready to receive Andre. His condition was critical, and he was rushed into surgery. The shark's brutal attack had left its mark, and the amputation of Andre's leg was a painful necessity to save his life. Andre's recovery was marked by physical and emotional challenges in the following days. The loss of his leg was a profound change that tested his resilience and spirit. Yet he was not alone on this journey. His family, friends, and the kayakers who had saved his life stood by his side, providing unwavering support and encouragement. With time, Andre adapted to life with a prosthetic leg. It was a testament to his determination and the indomitable spirit that had carried him through the darkest moments. He returned to the Brisbane River, not as a fisherman, but as a survivor, a man who had faced the relentless jaws of nature and emerged with a renewed appreciation for life. Once a place of solace and joy, the river remained a part of Andre's life. He continued to explore its waters, not as an escape from reality, but as a reminder of the strength within him. The Brisbane River had tested him, but it had also shown him the power of human resilience and the bonds of camaraderie that could be forged in the face of adversity. Andre Juarez's story became one of inspiration, a testament to the unwavering human spirit and the capacity to overcome any danger and worst situation. In the late 1990s, off the rugged coast of the Caribbean Sea, a chilling narrative unfolded, etching itself into the annals of maritime terror. Captain Daniel Whitaker was a revered figure in the quaint fishing village of Ocean's Reach, nestled on the rugged coast of the Caribbean Sea. Weathered by years spent battling the stormy waters of the Pacific, Daniel was a man of the sea, with the salty air and crashing waves coursing through his veins. His rugged exterior concealed a heart that beat for adventure, a longing for the unpredictable tales the ocean had yet to reveal. Daniel was the proud owner and skipper of the fishing vessel Triton's Bounty, a boat that had weathered countless storms and navigated treacherous waters. Joining him were his skilled crewmates, Ethan Blackwood, the son of a long line of fishermen, his seafaring lineage etched into the very marrow of his bones. Ryan Caldwell, a fearless deckhand with a knack for reading the currents and foreseeing the moods of the ocean. Maria Santiago, the resourceful and passionate marine biologist, whose dream was to unlock the mysteries of the deep. And Miguel Reyes, a cheerful seasoned fisherman whose laugh echoed through the coastal town. The crew of Triton's Bounty shared a camaraderie born of years spent fishing together, a bond more vital than the most demanding anchor chain. Their shared love for the sea and the thrill of the hunt drove them to venture into the ocean's abyss to reap its rewards. The year was 1998, when the world was on the cusp of a new millennium, brimming with hope and uncertainty. The crew had set sail on a moonlit night, the stars illuminating the inky expanse, their expectations as vast as the ocean. They aimed to venture farther into the depths than ever before, chasing the whispers of a bountiful catch, a promise of prosperity that beckoned from the heart of the Pacific. The boat sliced through the waves, leaving a shimmering trail. The winds whispered secrets of the ocean, and the crew listened intently, the anticipation of the night's endeavor fueling their excitement. As the coast of Ocean's Reach faded into the distance, they prepared to cast their lines and embrace the mysteries that awaited beneath the waves. Unbeknownst to them, the dark depths held more than just the promise of a prosperous catch. A shadow lurked, a creature of nightmares, ready to turn their expedition into a struggle for survival. The bull shark, a formidable predator distinguished by its robust physique, prowled stealthily beneath the water's surface. The aroma of bait and the frenetic movements of fish in the vicinity ignited its primal instincts. Ethan, Maria, and Miguel were at the stern of the boat, quietly preparing their fishing lines under the moonlit sky. Sensing the vibrations of struggling fish on their lines, the shark approached, curious and opportunistic. In a sudden and shocking turn of events, the shark lunged towards Maria's line. Her heart raced as she felt a powerful jolt, and the shark's jaws clamped onto her baited hook. With a surge of adrenaline, she instinctively yanked her line in an attempt to free the catch. But the shark's aggression led to an unexpected and intense struggle, leaving her in a perilous situation. The situation took a harrowing turn as Maria grappled with the unexpected force on her line. In its frantic attempt to secure the bait, the bull shark inadvertently clamped onto her leg with a powerful bite. Pain coursed through her body as she let out a startled cry. In the chaos of the shark's sudden attack, Maria felt the searing pain of its bite as it clamped down on her leg. The force of the impact knocked her off balance, her screams echoing across the waves. Acting on instinct, Ethan and Miguel rushed to pull Maria away from the boat's edge, the water around her now stained with her blood. Captain Daniel, Ryan, and the rest of the crew rushed to Maria's aid, their hearts pounding with fear and adrenaline. The boat rocked violently from the shark's assault. The creature was relentless in its pursuit. The crew scrambled to defend their vessel, fighting with all their might against the primal force of the ocean's fury. Armed with a harpoon, Ryan bravely plunged it into the shark's side, momentarily causing the predator to release its grip on the boat. The wounded creature thrashed, its agony fueling its rage. A seasoned fisherman, Miguel grabbed a gaff hook, joining Ryan in the fight to protect their crew. With adrenaline surging through their veins, they struck at the relentless shark, their determination to save their friends propelling their every move. Torn between assisting Maria and aiding his comrades, Ethan fought to keep Maria conscious, trying to stem the bleeding from her leg. The fear in Maria's eyes was mirrored in his, but he pushed aside his terror, focusing on the task at hand. Amid the chaos, a nearby Coast Guard vessel answered the distress call they had sent earlier. The rescuers sped towards them, their searchlights cutting through the darkness, casting an eerie glow on the raging sea. The crew of Triton's Bounty held their ground, their battle cries drowned by the ocean's roar. The arrival of the Coast Guard marked a turning point as they chased the relentless shark away, allowing the crew to breathe a sigh of relief. Maria was rushed to the hospital, her leg badly injured, the agony etched on her face. Though physically battered and emotionally scarred, the crew stood together, united by an experience that forever altered their ocean perception. In the aftermath of that harrowing night off the coast of the Caribbean, the crew of Triton's Bounty found themselves grappling with the trauma of the bull shark attack. The once idyllic waters had become treacherous, and the physical and emotional scars were haunting reminders of the unforgiving sea. Maria bore the brunt of the shark's ferocious assault. The bite had torn into her leg, leaving deep, ragged wounds that marred her flesh. The hospital became a second home, where surgeons fought to save her limb. However, the damage was extensive, and the doctors faced a grim reality. To ensure Maria's survival and a chance at a fulfilling life, they had to make the difficult decision to amputate her leg below the knee. The news was a devastating blow. Maria faced a grueling rehabilitation process, grappling with the loss of her leg and the profound changes it brought to her life. It was a path fraught with physical pain and emotional turmoil, a journey to relearn simple tasks and recalibrate her dreams. The once effortless act of walking now required prosthetics and perseverance. The coastal town of Ocean's Reach rallied around Maria, offering support and empathy. Her resilience resonated deeply within the community, symbolizing hope and determination. They organized fundraisers and events to assist with her medical expenses and rehabilitation, showcasing the incredible strength of their bond. Maria's journey became a source of profound admiration for Ethan, Ryan, and Miguel. They witnessed firsthand her unwavering courage and determination to reclaim her life. The crew of Triton's Bounty, forever bound by their trials, vowed to continue their maritime adventures, approaching the ocean with a newfound respect and understanding. Maria's story was a beacon of light, a testament to the indomitable human spirit, proving that even in the face of the worst circumstances, one could find hope, purpose, and the strength to triumph over adversity. Through her strength and resilience, Maria transformed tragedy into a legacy of inspiration, forever etching her name into the hearts of all who knew her tale. Ian Levinson said "I do" to his girlfriend, Betha of 6 hours ago, and saying he was the happiest man on the planet would be putting it mildly. Ian was pleased for the future that awaited them both, but they couldn't wait to escape for their honeymoon in Seychelles. The honeymoon would be the first time either of them was traveling outside New York, as their work had kept them in state, with dreams of going on vacation being their only goals. But here they were, finally boarding their flight to the tropical paradise that promised an adventure, fun, and relaxation they couldn't wait for. The 15-hour flight left the newlyweds jet-lagged, and they fell into a deep sleep immediately after they arrived at their resort. After hours of sleeping, the newlyweds were ready to explore the majestic property where they'll stay for 2 weeks. The resort was absolutely heavenly. It was just perfect for the lovebirds. Nestled in the tranquil outer islands, the resort offered a charming castaway experience that joyfully filled their hearts. Ian and his wife were stunned by the island's natural beauty. They could spend eternity there. The clear turquoise water stretching out was like something out of a postcard. The beach was adorned with soft, powdery sand, inviting them to bask in the sun and indulge in simple pleasures. Ian and Betha spent the first 2 days of their arrival leisurely exploring the island, discovering hidden coves and secluded spots that felt like their private paradise. The resort offered various activities, and Ian was particularly excited to try snorkeling among the vibrant coral reefs and colorful marine life. Having gone through most of their itineraries for the vacation, they had just 2 days left for the break to end, and snorkeling was the only adventure that was still unchecked. While Ian was ready to explore the underwater wonders, Betha wasn't so optimistic. She had never been a fan of the water, so she promised to go to the beach with Ian, but she'd only stay on the shore and read a book while he went snorkeling. The couple got to the shore and Betha settled, basking in the glorious sunlight. At the same time, Ian donned his snorkeling gear and ventured into the clear turquoise sea. If any of them knew that their serene vacation, which was almost ending, would take such a turn, they would have stayed indoors and enjoyed the rest of their day on the island. Ian swam leisurely, taking it in one at a time. Ian loved the water. His parents had teased him that he learned to swim even before he could walk, and right now, while marveling at the vibrant marine life beneath the surface, he couldn't understand why anyone would not love the ocean. The crystal clear water allowed him to witness a breathtaking kaleidoscope of fish and corals. As Ian glided through the water, he saw the large shadow approach him, but it happened so fast that he didn't have the opportunity to scream. His mind immediately registered the massive predator that emerged from the blue, a formidable tiger shark, its sleek body slicing through the water with deadly precision. Panic coursed through Ian's veins as he tried to swim away, but the shark's swift movement made escape futile. The shark lunged forward instantly, clamping its powerful jaws around Ian's arm. The force of the attack was immense, and with a sickening snap, the shark severed Ian's arm from his body. Ian heard his bones crush underneath the weight of the shark's strong jaws. He almost passed out from the shot of pain that followed. Blood clouded the water as Ian thrashed in agony, but the shark was relentless. Ian felt the shark disappear underneath the water, and he desperately prayed the worst had passed. He was in for a shock when the shark attacked again, targeting Ian's leg and dealing another brutal blow. At the shore, Betha was oblivious to the horror unfolding just yards away. She was focused entirely on the murder crime novel on her lap, but when she turned to pick up her glass of iced tea, she noticed a disturbance in the water and heard faint cries for help. Her heart was pounding with fear. She rushed to the shoreline only to witness someone in a life-or-death struggle with the ferocious predator. Panic seized her, but she knew she had to act quickly. Betha quickly screamed for help, alerting nearby boaters and beachgoers. A group of courageous individuals jumped into action, rushing toward the unfolding tragedy. One of them quickly commandeered a boat and skillfully navigated towards Ian, who was now unconscious and floating lifelessly. With remarkable teamwork, they hauled Ian's limp body onto the boat while a doctor among the group assessed his condition. The sight was harrowing. Bloodied and maimed, Ian was clinging to life by a thread. The doctor immediately initiated first aid, staunching the bleeding and stabilizing his vital signs as they returned to the shore. On the beach, an ambulance was already on its way, summoned by a quick-thinking bystander who had called for emergency medical help. The well-trained and experienced paramedics took over from the beach doctor, continuing life-saving measures as they rushed Ian to the nearest hospital. Despite their valiant efforts, tragedy had struck too swiftly and fiercely. Ian had lost over 70% of his blood and had probably passed out after the second attack. His body could not withstand the vicious attack and the resulting injuries. Ian died before reaching the hospital, leaving behind a trail of devastation and grief. Betha didn't notice her husband was the victim until she saw his beach shorts. She screamed and crumpled to the sand. Her world turned upside down instantly. Betha refused to believe her husband was gone. She rushed to this body. She couldn't believe the sight in front of her. The shark had cleanly bitten off one of the arms. The precision of the cut was like a doctor's scalpel. His left thigh had bloodied gashes, now coated with blood and sand. She couldn't believe that a vacation that had been a means of happiness and love had suddenly turned into something she wished had never happened. They would have just enjoyed their honeymoon in New York, close to their relatives and family. The love and laughter they had shared were now overshadowed by the heart-wrenching loss of her beloved husband. Their dreams of a lifetime together were cruelly shattered, leaving her to grapple with an unimaginable void. The beach vacation, which had started with such hope and joy, became a haunting memory for Betha. she found solace in the support of friends and family, who embraced her sorrowfully. The air crackled with heat and humidity as Harper Ellis stepped off the small boat and onto the shores of Wolf Island. This isolated speck of land, a volcanic outcrop in the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean, was her latest field research site. It was May 2003, a time of shimmering turquoise waters and a relentless sun. Harper was no ordinary tourist. A seasoned marine biologist, she was driven by a deep curiosity about the predators of the deep. Specifically, she was here to study the elusive and notoriously aggressive bull shark. These powerful creatures were drawn to the murky estuaries and channels surrounding the island, making it the perfect natural laboratory. This trip, though, was different. Harper was alone, a risky choice she felt was necessary for the work. For years, she'd documented shark behavior alongside a team. However, to truly understand these animals and push the boundaries of her research, she needed the freedom to work solo. It was reckless, perhaps, but the thrill of discovery outweighed the caution. Her equipment was meticulously laid out on the beach: tagging gear, waterproof cameras, and a drone for aerial surveys. She'd spent months preparing, her mind a whirlwind of data points and potential scenarios. Today was about observation. She planned to launch the drone to document shark activity in the shallows, a low-risk start to her solitary research. As she readied the drone, her senses were on high alert. She'd been in these waters countless times, but being alone shifted the dynamic entirely. The calm surface of the channel teemed with life, a reminder of the robust food chain she was about to intrude upon. Bull sharks were opportunistic hunters, their stocky bodies built for bursts of speed and ambush attacks. They were unpredictable and notoriously tolerant of murky conditions, precisely the environment she was about to enter. She donned her snorkeling gear and waded into the warm water. The drone hovered above, providing a bird's-eye view of the channel. Through the filtered sunlight, she could observe stingrays nestled in the sand and schools of fish glinting silver. But she sought a larger presence, a shark's sleek and unmistakable outline. The drone registered a flicker of movement in the distance, a shadowy shape cutting through the murky water. Harper's breath hitched. Was this her target? The shape grew more extensive as it moved closer, and she felt excitement tempered by unease. Yes, it was a shark, a bull shark, its blunt snout and unmistakable silhouette confirming her suspicions. She came for this data and a chance to observe the creature in its natural habitat. The drone buzzed overhead and the shark seemed unfazed, continuing its channel patrol. Harper followed from a distance, keeping her movements slow and deliberate, her researcher's mind cataloging every detail of its behavior. Then, the shark shifted course, turning abruptly towards her. She froze. Had it sensed her presence? Bull sharks were known for their unpredictable behavior. Her heart thumped against her ribs as the massive creature closed the distance. It lunged, its powerful body slicing through the water in a blur of motion. Harper kicked back instinctively, her snorkel ripped from her mouth as she gasped for breath. The shark's jaws clamped down, missing her leg by inches. But the impact was brutal, knocking her off balance and sending a wave of searing pain through her arm. She clawed desperately, finding a handhold on the animal's rough skin and shoving it against its snout. Her marine biology training kicked in. She knew blunt force wouldn't deter a determined shark this size. The eyes were a bull shark's most vulnerable spot. She locked eyes with the predator, forcing herself to remain eerily still as she jabbed a finger towards its eye. The shark flinched, its grip momentarily loosening. It was enough. Harper twisted free, scrambling back towards the surface in a haze of adrenaline and panic. She could see the shore, but it was agonizingly far. The shark circled back, its dark eyes cold and unreadable. She expected another attack, a swift and brutal end to her research and her life. But instead, the shark veered away, disappearing back into the murky depths of the channel. Harper could barely comprehend the sudden retreat. Had her desperate attack indeed deterred it? Or was it simply biding its time? She didn't wait to find out, swimming for shore with a desperation born of pure terror. Her arm throbbed with each pulse of pain, a reminder of the gaping tooth marks now etched into her flesh. As she stumbled onto the beach, gasping for air, the drone landed beside her, its tiny camera blinking innocently. Had it captured the attack? She didn't have the strength or the will to find out. All that mattered was the fact that she was alive. Collapsed in the sand, Harper allowed herself to tremble uncontrollably. Tears mingled with the salt water on her face, a release of terror and relief. Her solo expedition had taken a chilling turn. The encounter left her with a profound respect for the bull shark as a force of nature, and a bone-deep awareness of her utter vulnerability within its domain. She would analyze the drone footage later, looking for clues into the shark's behavior. But first, she had to deal with the immediate reality of her wound. The bleeding was finally lessening, but she needed proper medical attention. Somehow, she gathered the strength to send a distress signal from her satellite phone, then waited, watching the sun dip below the horizon. Rescue would come, but the image of those black, unreadable eyes would never leave her. Her research would continue, but never again with the same naive sense of security. She had looked into the eyes of a predator, and it had changed her forever. A woman named Harper lived on the stunning California coast, where the rocky cliffs meet the crashing waves with a powerful force. Harper had vibrant red hair and bright green eyes that sparkled with determination. She was known far and wide as a fearless explorer who found her greatest joy on the open sea. Kayaking along the secluded shores of the Pacific Ocean was her passion, closely followed by her love for delving into the untamed wilderness that surrounded her. One cool morning, just as the sun began to peek over the horizon, Harper felt that familiar rush of excitement as she prepared for another solo kayaking adventure. Although she often treasured the solitude of her journeys, this particular weekend held special significance for Harper. It was her much-needed break from the chaos of her busy life, a chance to reconnect with herself and the ocean, her ultimate sanctuary. As she glided along the unspoiled coastline, the salty breeze tousled her hair, and the gentle sway of the waves beneath her kayak lulled her into a state of peacefulness. Each stroke of her paddle seemed to wash away the burdens of her daily life, leaving her with a deep sense of calm and contentment. Before this tranquil moment, Harper had been swept up in the whirlwind of her demanding job. Working long hours and facing endless deadlines had left her feeling drained and overwhelmed. Thankfully, her boss had recognized her dedication and the toll it had taken on her well-being. So he generously granted her a paid leave, encouraging her to take some time off to rest and recharge. And thus, Harper found herself on the open waters, seeking solace in the beauty of nature and the soothing rhythm of the sea. But Harper's peaceful morning took a frightening turn when she noticed a dark shape moving beneath the water's surface. Her heart raced as she watched in terror as a giant shark emerged from the depths, its sleek body cutting through the waves with deadly precision. Fear gripped Harper's heart in that terrifying moment as she grappled with the danger. With adrenaline surging through her veins, Harper's survival instincts kicked in. Without a second thought, she began to paddle frantically, her muscles straining against the resistance of the water as she tried to outpace the predator. But the shark, a mighty great white with rows of sharp teeth, relentlessly pursued her, driven by its hunting instincts. Desperation fueled Harper's movements as she searched for a way to escape. However, the towering cliffs offered no refuge, leaving her nowhere to hide. With her options running out, Harper knew her only chance was to outmaneuver the shark and reach the safety of the shore. Summoning all her courage, Harper pushed herself to the limit, her kayak cutting through the water with renewed determination. Every twist and turn was calculated as she used her ocean currents and terrain knowledge to evade the predator. Just when it seemed she might escape, disaster struck. A powerful wave crashed against the rocks, sending Harper's kayak off course and into the path of the oncoming shark. With lightning-fast reflexes, she managed to steer away just in time, narrowly avoiding a collision that would have spelled certain doom. As minutes passed, Harper's strength began to fade. Her muscles ached with exhaustion and her breath came in ragged gasps. But despite the overwhelming fatigue, she refused to give up, drawing on every ounce of determination to paddle toward the safety of the shore. A glimmer of hope appeared on the horizon when Harper's situation worsened. The pursuing predator had turned away to circle for one more attempt at catching Harper. And so, with newfound determination, Harper pushed herself harder, her paddle slicing through the water with a renewed sense of purpose as she inched closer to the safety of dry land. Despite the relentless pursuit of the shark, Harper fought back fiercely, using her kayak paddle to fend off the creature whenever it drew near. Each strike was fueled by a primal instinct to survive. as Harper refused to succumb to the overwhelming fear. As the shore came into view, Harper felt relief wash over her. With one last burst of energy, she propelled herself forward, her kayak gliding swiftly across the water's surface toward safety. With a triumphant cry, Harper finally felt the solid ground beneath her feet as she stepped onto the welcoming embrace of the shore. Exhausted yet elated, she collapsed onto the soft sand, her heart still racing from the adrenaline-fueled ordeal she had just endured. Lying there, gazing up at the vast sky above her, Harper couldn't help but feel overwhelmed with awe and gratitude for the ocean that had both tested and rewarded her. And despite the lingering memory of her encounter with the shark, she knew it would be a reminder of her inner strength and resilience. Harper now rose from the sand, filled with a renewed sense of determination and a deep appreciation for the frightening beauty and power of the natural world. Violet Everwood wasn't just comfortable in the water. It was her natural habitat. She had grown up on the sandy shores of Queensland, Australia, where the rhythmic crash of waves was a constant soundtrack to her life. As a marine researcher, she spends more time beneath the surface than above it. It was the 15th of October 2005, another field research day. Their study site lay in the heart of the Great Barrier Reef, a kaleidoscope of colors and teeming life. Violet focused on coral health and the effects of warming waters on these fragile ecosystems. While idyllic, the reef held inherent dangers. Tiger sharks were common, sleek, powerful predators that patrolled the deeper channels between the coral formations. This morning, she was working alongside her partner, Benji Ito. Benji, a seasoned dive master with Hawaiian roots, had an almost supernatural ability to read the ocean's moods. The son of a fisherman, he balanced scientific curiosity with a deep-rooted respect for the unpredictable nature of the sea. Her day began as usual, the clumsy donning of wetsuits and the careful calibration of monitoring equipment. The water, as always, was a delicious shock, cool and refreshing against her sun-baked skin. Benji signaled the all-clear and she submerged, the familiar weightlessness washing over her. Beneath the surface, the world transformed. Vivid corals shimmered, fish darted in dazzling schools, and the sandy bottom rippled in the currents. It was peaceful and exhilarating, a fragile ecosystem she desperately wanted to protect. Violet lost track of time as she measured coral growth, took water samples, and recorded her observations on a waterproof slate. She worked slowly, methodically, her rhythm in sync with the swaying corals. The Great Barrier Reef spanned thousands of kilometers, an intricate web of life. Tiger sharks, known for their indiscriminate appetites, were a vital link in the chain. They called the weak and the sick, keeping the reef's delicate balance intact. Violet knew this in theory, but an undercurrent of unease always accompanied her dives. It was a primal instinct, human versus top predator. And the ocean, for all its beauty, was a wild, untamed place. It began as a flicker in her peripheral vision. A large shadow, moving too fast to be a fish. Violet's heart clenched. A tiger shark, unmistakably sleek even at a distance. She knew better than to panic. Slow, controlled movements were vital. Signaling to Benji was out of the question. It would only agitate the shark. She began a cautious retreat, aiming back towards the boat moored away. But the shark was curious. It circled closer, its pale underbelly almost luminous in the filtered sunlight. Violet had seen these stripes in videos and identification charts before. They belonged to a vast and aggressive female. It was almost hypnotic, this deadly ballet played in turquoise water. Her breath hissed through her regulator, each exhalation a plume of nervous bubbles. The shark closed the distance with alarming speed. It nudged her tentatively like a cat testing a new toy. Then, with a flick of its powerful tail, it lunged. Violet twisted, narrowly avoiding the first pass, but the shark wheeled back around. Now the circling was tighter, faster. Its mouth gaped, displaying a horrifying array of serrated teeth. She instinctively used her slate as a makeshift shield, a flimsy barrier against this force of nature. The shark rammed her again, the impact sending her tumbling backward. She lost her grip on the slate, watching it sink into the depths. Her dive knife was secured on her leg, a last line of defense. Somehow she needed to get back to Benji, back to the relative safety of the boat. She kicked out, a desperate bid toward the surface. The shark followed, its movements sinuous but relentless. Just when she began to despair, a dark shape shot towards them. Benji. He was wielding a long dive pole, yelling and splashing the water to distract the shark. The ploy worked just long enough. The predator, momentarily confused, veered away. Violet used the precious seconds, swimming with everything she had, scrambling upwards towards the sunlight, dappling the surface. Pain exploded in her leg as the shark, recovering quickly, clamped down. It wasn't a clean, severing bite, more a ragged tear as she wrenched herself free. She surfaced, gasping and terrified. Benji's strong arms pulled her into the boat in one swift motion. Crimson bloomed in the water, attracting the shark like a beacon. Benji moved with urgent precision. He ripped a strip off his shirt and fashioned a crude tourniquet on her thigh. His voice was a soothing counterpoint to the chaos in her mind. They sped back to shore, the boat slapping relentlessly against the waves. Violet's memory of the rest is fragmented. The blinding pain, the faces of concerned strangers on the beach, the sterile whiteness of the hospital. She had surgery, received countless stitches, and battled a persistent infection. The scar on her leg was twisted and ugly, a permanent testament to the predator that lurked below the waves. Recovery was both physical and mental. Once her sanctuary, the ocean now echoed those razor-sharp teeth. Her nightmares were a chilling replay of the attack, waking her in a cold sweat. Yet the pull of the sea was undeniable. Weeks turned into months, and slowly a stubborn resolve took root. The attack was a terrifying outlier, a statistical anomaly. She couldn't deny her life's work out of fear. She would go back into the water, more cautious this time, more respectful, but she would go back. In 1939, in the bustling city of New Orleans, along the meandering banks of the mighty Mississippi River, lived a young man named Jeffrey Brown. He was a diligent worker, earning his livelihood as a waiter in a restaurant perched on the river's eastern shore. Jeffrey's life followed a predictable routine that was both mundane and comforting. Each morning he embarked on a short journey to his workplace. The Mississippi River served as a natural divide. Jeffrey took a small ferry that ferried passengers from the west shore to the east. The slow chug of the ferry's engine became the backdrop to his daily commute, a journey he had grown accustomed to over the years. The restaurant where he worked was a popular spot frequented by locals and visitors. Jeffrey was known for his friendly demeanor and quick service, making him a favorite among the patrons. It was a modest existence, but gave him a sense of purpose and a steady income. One evening, after a long and tiring day at the restaurant, Jeffrey boarded the ferry for the return trip to the west shore, where his home awaited him. The day had taken its toll on him, and fatigue weighed heavily upon his shoulders. He settled near the edge of the ferry's grill, his exhaustion causing him to slouch as he gazed out at the darkening waters of the Mississippi River. Unbeknownst to Jeffrey, the tranquil surface of the river concealed an ominous presence. A creature of primal instinct and power, a bull shark, lay in wait beneath the depths. As the ferry made its unhurried progress across the river, the shark sensed an opportunity, and with a lightning-quick burst of speed, it lunged from the depths. The attack was brutal and swift. Jeffrey's arm became trapped in the shark's razor-sharp jaws. The predator's relentless strength tore through flesh and bone in a terrifying moment. Agonizing pain radiated from his mangled arm, and he let out a scream that reverberated through the ferry, sending shockwaves of terror through the passengers. The ferry operator, alert to the sudden chaos unfolding on board, wasted no time. With a heart pounding in fear and urgency, he pushed the boat's engine to its full speed, leaving behind a turbulent wake as the ferry raced towards the west shore. Panic swept over the passengers, but there was no time for anything but escape. The journey across the river felt like an eternity, every moment filled with dread and desperation. The passengers huddled together, their faces contorted with fear as they prayed for safety. In the distance, the lights of the west shore grew steadily brighter, a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. Finally, the ferry reached the safety of the riverbank. With relief, the passengers rushed to disembark, their survival an outcome they had not dared to take for granted. Among them, Jeffrey Brown, his arm hanging in tatters, was carried to the shore by sympathetic strangers. An ambulance was summoned, and with sirens wailing, Jeffrey was rushed to the nearest hospital. His life hung in the balance as skilled medical professionals worked tirelessly to stabilize him. His arm, however, was beyond saving, and in a sad and solemn procedure, it was amputated to prevent further complications. The relentless attack of the bull shark had irrevocably altered Jeffrey's life. The job that had provided him with his daily bread and a sense of purpose was now out of reach, and his future was uncertain. The restaurant where he had once been a beloved fixture seemed a world away. Recovery was a long and painful process, both physically and emotionally. Jeffrey grappled with losing his arm, a stark reminder of the fateful evening on the Mississippi River. He faced the daunting challenge of rebuilding his life and finding new purpose and meaning in a world that had suddenly become much harsher. Jeffrey's spirit remained unbroken despite the darkness that had descended upon him. With time and determination, he learned to adapt to his new reality. He underwent physical therapy to regain his strength and mobility, and he found solace in the support of friends and family who stood by his side throughout his journey to recovery. In time, Jeffrey discovered a new passion and purpose. He became an advocate for shark conservation, using his own harrowing experience to raise awareness about the importance of protecting these misunderstood creatures and their fragile ecosystems. His story served as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the capacity to find strength and purpose, even in the face of life-altering adversity. Jeffrey Brown's name became synonymous with courage and determination in New Orleans as the years passed. He had survived the worst day of his life, and in doing so, he had not only found a way to heal. Still, he had also become a beacon of inspiration for others facing their challenges. The Mississippi River, once a source of solace and routine, had thrust him into the depths of despair. Still, his unwavering spirit had carried a purposeful future ahead. 3 friends lived in the coastal town of Pacifica, a place renowned for its rugged cliffs and the eternal ebb and flow of the Pacific Ocean. The surging waves and their insatiable thirst for adventure intertwined their lives. Mark Taylor, a 26-year-old graduate student studying marine biology at a nearby prestigious university, was the driving force behind the trio. His passion for the ocean and its mysterious inhabitants was unmatched, fueling many beachside debates and late-night study sessions. Gary Miller, 25 years old, was an aspiring environmental journalist from San Francisco. Eloquent and with an eye for detail, Gary was drawn to the ocean for its beauty and the stories it held. John Harris, the youngest of the trio at 24, was a spirited freediver, equally at ease beneath the waves as above them. Originally from Los Angeles, he had moved to Pacifica to pursue his passion for freediving and marine conservation. Their paths converged at the university, where their shared love for the ocean deepened their friendship. They often found solace and excitement in the waves, embarking on ventures that tested their physical limits and collective understanding of the marine world. One fateful afternoon in 2002, their usual camaraderie took a thrilling turn. The trio, gripped by the allure of the ocean, decided to seize the day and challenge the mighty waves. Little did they know that this decision would soon plunge them into the very heart of danger. The stage was set at a local surf spot known for its waves, which enchanted and intimidated even the most seasoned surfers and bodyboarders. The waves crashed against the shore with rhythmic ferocity, inviting the trio into the dangerous embrace of the ocean. With their bodyboards in hand and hearts pulsating with anticipation, Mark, Gary, and John made their way into the sea, ready to take on the challenge that awaited them. It was a day that would etch its memory deep into the annals of their lives, forever altering the course of their journey amidst the waves. As the friends paddled further into the ocean, the taste of salt in the air mingled with their excitement. The adrenaline surged through their veins, drowning any lingering trepidation they might have harbored. The waves were fierce, rising like mountains before crashing down in a thunderous display of nature's power. Mark, being the most experienced waterman among them, took the lead. He skillfully maneuvered the waves, his bodyboard an extension of himself. Gary and John followed, their enthusiasm fueling their courage. A sudden disturbance in the water caught Mark's attention. A subtle change in the current made him pause, a primal instinct warning him of danger. He glanced around, trying to discern the source of this disturbance. Then, out of the depths, emerged a creature that would shatter their idyllic day. A bull shark, a formidable ocean predator, surged towards Mark with astonishing speed and deadly intent. Its menacing and unmistakable filled the trio with dread. Mark's heart raced as he recognized the peril they were in. He shouted at Gary and John, a warning that became a primal scream as the shark bore down on him. The bull shark attacked in a swift, brutal strike, its jaws clamping onto Mark's leg. The ferocity of the assault was beyond comprehension. The force of the bite sent shockwaves through the group, the reality sinking in like an anchor, dragging them into the depths of fear. Gary and John watched in horror as their friend fought for his life, grappling with the ruthless predator. The sea turned crimson as the struggle continued. Mark's desperate cries echoed, the sound of pain and fear reverberating through the waves. The shark's power was awe-inspiring, its primal hunger driving it to overpower its prey. With every passing moment, hope waned. Mark's strength was ebbing away, his body succumbing to the agonizing grip of the shark. Once a place of joy and adventure, the ocean has transformed into a battleground of life and death. Mark's fight for survival had just begun, and the outcome remained uncertain, hanging in the balance of a relentless and unforgiving sea. As the bull shark's jaws clamped down on Mark's leg, the world seemed to slow to a nightmarish crawl. Mark's survival instincts kicked in. He summoned all his strength and unleashed a barrage of desperate kicks and punches. His fists pounded the shark's rough skin. His feet flailed in a furious struggle for freedom. Gary and John, their faces contorted with terror, paddled towards their friend as fast as they could. The salt water churned with their frantic strokes, each taking them closer to the unfolding nightmare. The bull shark lunged at Mark, its teeth sinking into his leg with a sharp, piercing bite. Mark cried in pain as the shark's powerful jaws clamped down. Gary and John, their hearts racing with fear and adrenaline, immediately rushed towards Mark. They grabbed his arms and shoulders, trying to pull him away from the shark's grip. Startled by the sudden resistance, the bull shark briefly shook its head before releasing Mark's leg. With Mark in distress, they all made a frantic effort to swim back to safety. Now that Mark was free, his friends wasted no time. They paddled furiously, dragging him towards the shore. The distance seemed impossibly far, and the shark, though momentarily defeated, still circled ominously nearby. Mark's blood trailed behind them, a grotesque marker of their desperate escape. The pain in his leg was excruciating, but he clung to consciousness, determined to return to the shore's safety. Gary and John could feel the sand beneath their feet as they neared the shallower waters. With a final burst of strength, they half carried and half dragged Mark onto the shore. The adrenaline that had fueled their fight against the shark now waned, leaving them physically and emotionally drained. Paramedics rushed to the scene, their faces grim as they assessed the extent of Mark's injuries. The shark's attack had left a gruesome tableau of torn flesh and shattered bones. Despite the unbearable pain, Mark remained conscious, his will to survive unwavering. He knew that his life hung in the balance, and he clung to the hope that the paramedics could save him. With precision born of experience, the paramedics stabilized Mark's condition. They applied tourniquets to staunch the bleeding from his mangled leg and administered pain medication to alleviate his suffering. Every second counted, and their swift actions gave Mark a fighting chance. An air ambulance was summoned to airlift Mark to the nearest trauma center. The minutes ticked by with agonizing slowness as they waited for the helicopter's arrival. Still in shock from the terrifying ordeal, Mark's friends could only watch helplessly as their companion fought for his life. Mark was carefully placed on a stretcher and loaded into the aircraft. The paramedics and flight crew worked seamlessly together, their expertise a beacon of hope amid despair. Mark was prepped for surgery, and the grim reality of his situation sank in. Hours turned into days as Mark underwent multiple surgeries to repair the extensive damage inflicted by the shark. The news of Mark's shark attack sent shockwaves through their coastal community. It served as a stark reminder of the unpredictable and untamed nature of the ocean. Beachgoers and surfers, once fearless in their pursuit of waves, now approached the water with newfound respect and caution. The bull shark's attack had left an indelible mark on their lives, a reminder that humans were but visitors in the realm of nature. Yet it also revealed the strength that could be found in adversity. In September 1985, 13-year-old Diane and her mother, Lisa, were surfboarding off the coast of New Smyrna Beach in Florida. Their surfboarding exercise had become a daily bonding activity between the mother and daughter since Diane turned 5. Lisa couldn't help but marvel at how beautiful her daughter was as she gave her a rundown of her plans for the day. Diane was starting grade 9 today, and it called for a celebration for the mother-daughter duo. She promised her daughter a pizza dinner when she got back from school. Although her daughter was still young, Lisa could testify that she was an experienced surfer growing up to become an amazing lady. The pair felt at home on their boards, riding the gentle swells. The salty breeze brushed against their cheeks, and laughter filled the air as they shared precious moments. As they glided through the water and traded gossip amidst feats of laughter, in no alternate reality did they see the tragic scene of events that were about to occur. They sat astride on their surfboards when they felt a slight surge from underneath. At first, Lisa thought she was imagining it, but when she looked at her daughter's face, she knew she felt what she had noticed. There was something huge underneath them. Lisa was the first to see it, the fin cutting sharply through the water, announcing its arrival. With a powerful surge, the shark emerged from the depths and lunged at Diane's feet, clamping its sharp teeth onto her foot. She screamed in pain as the shark's forceful pull dragged her underwater. Before she gave birth to Diane, Lisa had never seen herself putting anyone before herself. But everything had changed 15 years ago when she welcomed this perfect human being to the world. In the hospital that day, she had sworn to do everything to keep her daughter safe, and nobody, not even a shark, would come between that promise. Lisa didn't have to think before acting. Her body was moving on pure instincts, driven by motherly love and adrenaline. She immediately dived into the water, after the shark, with a fierce determination that must have shocked the shark. She swiftly reached out and grabbed Diane by the shoulders, pulling her onto her surfboard. With her daughter on her surfboard, they could now decide what happened next. Lisa had never been religious, but at this moment she prayed to whoever was out there to spare her daughter. If the shark attacked again, it could just take only her and let her beautiful daughter get to the shore. Lisa had read in magazines that sharks were usually not violent, especially when not attacked. She desperately hoped the shark would get bored and circle away, but the shark looked as if it wasn't done with them, circling them ominously, unwilling to let go of its prey. With her heart pounding in her chest, Lisa did what any rational human being in that situation would do. She screamed for help. Her voice echoed across the waves, drawing the attention of nearby rescuers patrolling the area. They rushed towards the scene, their boats slicing through the water urgently. Despite the approaching rescuer boats, the shark circled the duo as if casting a spell around them. As the rescuers edged closer to Lisa and Diane, the shark took one last circle around them and darted away into the vast ocean depths. The brave rescuers quickly reached Diane and Lisa, offering a helping hand and guiding them back to the safety of the shore. An ambulance was already waiting on the beach, ready to whisk them to the hospital for immediate medical attention. Diane's foot was bleeding from where the shark had grabbed her. The rescuers applied primary first aid to Diane as they rushed her to the hospital. At the hospital, the doctors informed Lisa that Diane would require surgery to treat the wounds caused by the shark's razor-sharp teeth. The shark had bit out a chunk of muscle and she needed a plasma transfusion. Lisa remained by her daughter's side, providing comfort and support during this traumatic ordeal. Diane underwent the necessary surgery in the hospital, surrounded by caring medical professionals who ensured she received the best care possible. Despite the pain and fear she experienced, Diane's spirit remained strong, buoyed by her mother's presence. Days turned into weeks, and Diane's recovery progressed steadily. Her foot slowly healed, and with the support of physical therapy, she began to regain her strength. Even though she was left with 15 stitches, a scar that would never completely fade, Diane knew she still had her whole life ahead of her. She was lucky to be a survivor, all thanks to her superhero mother. You'll think that the attack would make the mother-daughter duo stay off the ocean, but they were even eager to make up for the lost time from not spending time doing what they loved most, surfing. Throughout her recovery, Diane found solace in the waves, returning to the water with cautious determination. With her mother's guidance and the support of her community, she overcame the lingering fear and anxiety that the attack had left behind. Their bond grew even stronger as they continued to share their love for surfing and the ocean. As the months passed, Diane's story resonated far beyond New Smyrna Beach. Her mother's courage and resilience inspired mothers and everyone. Her tale reminded us of the strength within us when faced with adversity. The mother-daughter duo's bond symbolized the unyielding love that can weather any storm and conquer any challenge. The waters of Bimini Bay shimmered with a deceptive tranquility. For Chloe Dubois, this wasn't merely a beautiful location, it was a living canvas. The Bahamas were her studio, office, and sanctuary, with vibrant reefs and crystal-clear waters. It was May 19, 2004, and the day had started as any other. Yet a flicker of unease lingered in her as she checked her camera gear. Was it just the early hour? Or was a more profound anticipation buzzing within her? Chloe wasn't one for superstitions. A marine photographer's life was a mix of luck and skill which she'd honed through years of dedication. Her childhood fascination with the ocean's mysteries had evolved into a career. It took her around the globe, capturing images that revealed a world most people never saw. Fear was a constant companion, yet it rarely held her back. Lemon sharks were common in these waters. They could be aggressive, but attacks on humans were rare. Still, there was a predatory sparkle in their eyes, a calculated intelligence that Chloe found both unnerving and thrilling. This morning she had a particular shot in mind, not just images of the sharks but their interactions with the teeming fish around the reef. It meant getting closer than usual, a dance at the edge of the predator's world. Her partner Ben bobbed next to her, his grin a mix of excitement and apprehension. They were a well-practiced team, bound by trust and a mutual love for the ocean. With a final gear check, she slipped beneath the surface. The sun's warmth faded, replaced by a cool blue embrace. The world of the reef unfolded before her in vivid detail. Darting fish swirling in shimmering clouds, the coral swaying with an unseen rhythm. And there, patrolling the fringe of this bustling ecosystem, were the sharks. Chloe's breath hitched in her throat. Their sleek forms were mesmerizing. She understood the terror they inspired in many, but it was mixed with an overwhelming sense of awe for her. She started to frame a shot, aware of Ben nearby. Her focus was intense. Years ago, a tragic accident had claimed her brother, snatched away in a riptide she hadn't seen coming. It had forged in her a respect for the ocean's power and a fierce determination to conquer her fears. The camera became a shield, a way to channel her grief and love for the world that had taken so much. The first flicker of movement caught her eye. A lone shark was peeling off from the others, heading toward her. Her pulse quickened. Was it curiosity or something more? Chloe held her position, willing herself to stay calm. Ben, sensing the shift, moved closer, his body subtly tensing. The shark came on, its pace unhurried yet purposeful. Chloe raised her camera, fighting the instinct to retreat. Then everything happened in a terrifying flash. The shark lunged, not with the clean strike of a feeding predator, but with a thrashing, violent burst of energy. Pain exploded in her leg. Her vision blurred as she was jerked violently underwater. Crimson swirled around her, obscuring her sight. The shark had clamped onto her calf, teeth tearing through flesh. The rush of water drowned out her muffled scream. She kicked and thrashed, but the shark held fast. Dimly, she saw Ben charging forward. He jabbed his spear gun at the shark, aiming to distract it, but it seemed fixated on its prey. Chloe's world narrowed to the burning agony in her leg, the desperate struggle to stay conscious as her vision dimmed. Then, with a jolt, the shark released her. She was tumbling, choking on seawater. Lungs screaming, she fought her way towards the surface. Strong hands grabbed her, hauling her upwards. She broke through the waterline, gasping for air. Ben's face was a mask of horror. Blood flowed freely from her mangled leg, staining the crystalline water a grotesque red. The other sharks, drawn by the commotion, circled in the distance. It wasn't over yet, she choked out, a wave of dizziness almost pulling her under. Ben hoisted her higher, yelling over the roar of his panicked breaths. The time he was blurred. Movement, shouts, the rough feel of rope against her skin as Ben bodily hauled her into the shallows. The world tilted, the pain becoming an all-consuming blackness. She awoke with a jolt in a hospital bed. There was a persistent ringing in her ears, the sterile smell of antiseptic, the ache of her wounded leg. It took a moment for the fog to clear. The memory of teeth, blood, and the crushing pressure washed over her like a chilling tide. They were lucky. Passing fishermen had seen the attack, pulling them from the water moments before the sharks closed in. Ben was bruised but largely unhurt. Chloe's injuries, while severe, weren't life-threatening. Yet the trauma lingered. When she looked at the ocean the next day, it wasn't with the artist's eye but with the wary gaze of a survivor. The attack had taken something from her, not just flesh and blood, but a sliver of her carefree spirit. The ocean, once her playground, was now where danger lurked beneath the surface. But there was resilience forged within her, too. The ocean was still her passion, her calling. Weeks later, with her legs still mending, she tentatively picked up her camera. It was a cautious return, tinged with fear and a fierce determination. The scars, both visible and hidden, would never indeed fade. They were a reminder of the ocean's raw power and the price of venturing into its unpredictable depths. Yet Chloe Dubois refused to be chased from the world she loved. She would return to the water, her eyes a little wider, her heart a little warier, but her spirit unbroken. In the heart of a cozy coastal village, snugly tucked between towering cliffs, there dwelled an old fisherman whose face told tales of countless battles with the ocean's ever-changing temperament. They called him Old Jack, a name that echoed through the village like a cherished melody, for he was a legend among the locals, admired for his unmatched skill and unyielding courage against the sea's might. Old Jack's journey to becoming the seasoned fisherman he is today was a story marked by hardship and resilience. He was born into poverty, a life filled with struggle from the very start. Tragedy struck early when a fierce storm swept away his parents, leaving him alone in the world. With nothing but his determination and sharp mind, he embarked on a journey to forge a life for himself amidst the unforgiving waves of the village's shores. With each sunrise and sunset, Old Jack immersed himself in the ways of the sea, honing his fishing skills one cast at a time. His small boat became his haven, a safe harbor amidst the stormy seas of life. Despite facing countless setbacks and dancing perilously close to death's embrace, he remained steadfast in his quest to master the ocean's secrets. With every wave and gust of wind, he learned to navigate with skill and determination, earning respect for land and sea. On a misty morning when the sun shone, Old Jack embarked on this trip alone in his weather-worn vessel. A fisherman's life was lonely and his ship was his only friend. It was also a testament to the countless adventures they had both weathered. With hands roughened by years of toiling with nets and a spirit as unyielding as the waves, he sailed forth with one goal: to land the catch of a lifetime. Casting his net into the depths below, he listened intently to the ocean's heartbeat, attuned to every murmur and sigh it shared. As time trickled by and the sun climbed higher, a creeping sense of unease crept into Old Jack's heart. The sea, once a trusted friend, now seemed to whisper ominous warnings, hinting at lurking dangers beneath its tranquil surface. Despite the gnawing feeling in his gut, he pushed forward, determined to seize the day's bounty. Suddenly, the tranquility shattered like glass as a violent tremor rocked the boat, sending Old Jack tumbling. A primal roar split the air, and from the depths emerged a titan, an 8-foot shark, its sleek silhouette stark against the backdrop of Old Jack's modest vessel. Undeterred by the looming danger, Jack sprang into action, his movements graceful and precise as a testament to his lifelong dance with the sea. Fortunately, before setting sail, he meticulously tended to his weathered vessel, scrutinizing every inch to ensure its seaworthiness. Especially against unforeseen situations like a storm or shark attack, as in this case. He was sure his ship would not let him down. Doing the rest was up to him. And so, with practiced hands, he readied his harpoon, a loyal companion that had seen him through countless trials on the water. Despite the rush of adrenaline, Jack's nerves remained steady, a skill honed over years of solitude and unpredictability at sea. Again, life as a fisherman out on the open water was a test of patience and solitude. Hours could blend into days without a decent catch. Every time Jack prepared to cast his nets, his approach was deliberate, masking the turbulent activity lurking beneath the surface. With a keen eye, he scanned the water, searching for telltale signs of fish, drawing upon decades of experience and gut instinct to guide his every move. Once he identified a promising spot, he methodically lowered his nets into the deep, his anticipation mounting with each passing second as he awaited the sea's response. Usually, while awaiting the familiar tug of his nets, he often lost himself in memories of days gone by, the laughter of friends or the warmth of a home he had long since left behind. Yet Jack had mastered maintaining his sanity amidst the isolation. He found comfort in the rhythmic sway of the waves and the vastness of the horizon. In stark contrast, what ensued presently was a frenzied ballet of life and death, a cacophony of turmoil and urgency unfolding amidst the crashing waves. Old Jack, the seasoned fisherman, found himself engaged in a primal duel with the formidable shark, each maneuver a calculated gamble, each thrust of his reloadable harpoon a desperate bid for survival. The battle raged on, the outcome hanging in the balance as man and beast poured every ounce of strength into the struggle for dominance. Old Jack delivered a final, decisive blow as the sun rose to its highest point in the sky at its most fiery temperature. His harpoon flew true, making its mark with unwavering accuracy. With a triumphant cry reverberating across the waves, he witnessed the mighty shark succumb to its mortal wounds as its reign of terror ended. Exhausted yet victorious, Old Jack slumped against the weathered railing of his boat, his chest heaving with a mixture of exertion and relief. Surveying the vast expanse of the ocean before him, he decided it was time to get back home. Upon mooring his boat, he was met by tourists who suddenly took an interest in his catch as it lay on the deck. With the bit of strength he had left, Jack hoisted it clean for everyone to see, and there was quite a commotion as people tried to take selfies with the shark. At this point, Jack knew his tale would echo through the generations in the village's lore, and he didn't mind being such a subject. Yet amidst the villagers' adulation, he recognized the heavy toll of his victory. With its immeasurable depths and capricious currents, the sea would always remain a relentless foe, demanding reverence and humility from all who dared to challenge its domain. And so, as the sun barely dipped overhead and the soothing melody of the waves enveloped the late afternoon air, Old Jack turned his boat homeward. His heart weighed heavy with the burden of triumph and tribulation. At this juncture, he understood that the sea would forever hold him captive. It was a testament to the unyielding spirit of the fisherman in him. Liam Blackwood wasn't a man of superstition. Yet, as he gazed out at the turquoise shimmer of Palawan Bay, a flicker of unease danced in his gut. It had been a long morning. He and his partner, Anya Novak, had spent hours poring over charts and sonar readings, a mix of excitement and nerves thrumming under their skin. The dive computers were loaded and gear was meticulously checked. Still, the vast blue expanse of the Philippines coast felt ominous today. With her cropped blonde hair and a spirit as unyielding as steel, Anya shrugged away his uncharacteristic mood. There was a glint in her hazel eyes. They both knew about the local tales of a monstrous shark, a guardian of the reef, lurking in the unexplored depths of the bay. It was nothing but folklore, of course. With his lean frame hardened by countless dives and a cautious nature that went against his love of the ocean's depths, Liam couldn't shake off the strange foreboding. But he'd faced fear before. It was an intrinsic part of his chosen life. The Palawan Islands were a diver's paradise. Pristine coral reefs teemed with life so vivid it felt otherworldly. Sharks were a common sight here. Sleek silhouettes, masters of their domain, added beauty and danger to this underwater realm. Yet what fueled the whispers wasn't an ordinary shark. Legend said it was colossal, a creature bearing the scars of battles few witnessed and survived. 2005 had been a year of change for Liam. Leaving the bustling coasts of England for the remote serenity of Southeast Asia hadn't been easy, but the allure of the unknown had proven too strong. His small but successful charter business thrived amidst the lush island setting. On this day, however, it wasn't leisure that drove them into the water. For months, the strange patterns on their sonar system had hinted at a hidden treasure, a vast network of underwater caves untouched and ripe for discovery. They'd nicknamed their target the Labyrinth. To Liam, it held the promise of a lifetime, to Anya, the thrill of pushing boundaries. With tanks strapped on and regulators secured, they descended. Sunlight dappled through the clear water, fading into dusky obscurity with each depth meter. They were experienced divers, and their descent was measured and precise. Schooling fish darted aside like shimmering confetti, the familiar rhythm of the reef a comforting counterpoint to the thrill of anticipation. They reached the reef's edge, where the seabed fell into a gaping chasm. This was it. Anya gave the signal, her eyes dancing with excitement behind her mask. Liam responded automatically, a well-practiced nod, but his pulse throbbed faster. The entrance to the labyrinth was a mere crevice, barely large enough to allow them passage one at a time. Anya went first, her form disappearing into the gloom. Liam hesitated for a breath, the oppressive weight of water pressing down. In that moment of stillness, the bay, once so dazzling, felt alien. Then, with a decisive kick, he followed her into the darkness. His dive light pierced the gloom, a feeble weapon against the suffocating darkness. The cave system twisted and turned, forcing him to squeeze through spaces that threatened to trap him. Anya was a few meters ahead. Her rhythmic kicks were the only sign of life in this desolate place. Liam fought back a rising tide of unease. This was the wrong place where the ocean held its secrets close. Then the shadows moved. Not one, but several shapes materialized. Sleek, deadly forms circling them with chilling purpose. Reef sharks are a shiver of predators drawn to the disturbance. Liam's heart pounded, echoing in the enclosed space. His training kicked in. Stay calm, don't provoke, maintain eye contact. But the sharks were growing bolder. Their movements were fluid, testing their boundaries. Anya signaled for them to move back, inch by inch. Her eyes were wide behind her mask, mirroring his fear. One shark darted in, close enough to feel the rush of water as it passed. Liam reacted, kicking out and aiming his knife at the creature. It veered away, only to be replaced by another, its sharp teeth gleaming in the faint light. Desperation flared, hot and frantic, in Liam's chest. With a surge of terrible clarity, he realized they weren't just being observed, but being herded. The sharks pushed them deeper into the labyrinth, cutting off their escape. Anya moved closer, their bodies almost touching as they tried vainly to present a unified front. The sharks closed in, their dark eyes relentless. It was a game of attrition now, and they were losing ground. Then, as if triggered by an unseen signal, the pack attacked. Liam found himself in the heart of a swirling, snapping frenzy. Teeth raked at him, tearing through his wetsuit. He lashed out with his knife, stabbing blindly, feeling a jolt of terrible satisfaction as he connected. But there were too many, their bodies whipping through the water like razor-strewn whips. Pain exploded in his leg. He screamed, the sound muffled by the regulator as teeth tore into his calf. Crimson bloomed in the water, a swirling invitation driving the sharks into a greater frenzy. Liam kicked and thrashed, his movements clumsy, hindered by the tight space. Through the haze of pain and fear, he saw his opening. A narrow slot in the cave wall, barely wide enough to squeeze through. With a surge of adrenaline-fueled strength, Liam lunged towards it, leaving a trail of blood in his wake. He clawed his way into the passage, scraping against a jagged rock. The sharks couldn't follow, but their fierce strikes at the entrance sent shockwaves through the water. He was trapped, injured, and slowly running out of air. His wounded leg throbbed in fiery protest, each movement sending fresh waves of pain through his body. Panic clawed at his throat, a primal terror threatening to consume him. Yet somewhere beneath the blind fear, his survival instinct fought back. He willed himself to think, to plan. The cave had to lead somewhere. He pressed onwards, ignoring the pain, driven by the desperate need to escape, to see sunlight again. The passage seemed endless, the crushing darkness broken only by the feeble beam of his torch. Bursting into a larger chamber, Liam found himself facing a vertical shaft. It rose towards the surface, sunlight filtering down like a lifeline. His heart pounded with renewed vigor. But how to climb? His injured leg was all but useless. He scanned the chamber, his eyes finally landing on the discarded remains of a previous expedition. A tangle of ropes lay half buried in the silt. With a cry of desperate triumph, Liam dragged himself over. Pain seared through him as he forced his trembling hands to knot the ropes, creating a makeshift ladder. Inch by agonizing inch, he hauled himself upwards. The light grew brighter, the promise of air intoxicating. His lungs screamed, his wounded leg a constant burning agony. He thought of Anya, a silent prayer for her survival, a flicker of guilt that he'd fled even as she fought. Breaking the surface was like being reborn. He gasped, the air sweet with life, and frantically scanned the water. Relief washed over him as he saw her clinging to a jutting rock, injured but alive. It took them hours, working through pain and exhaustion, to reach the shore. Collapse claimed them when they felt the safety of solid ground beneath them. They had survived, broken, scarred but alive. The labyrinth had tried to claim them, but they had snatched their lives back from the clutches of the deep. Stella Moreau was out of her element. Scuba diving had been a recent obsession, fueled by a desire to conquer her fears and a yearning for a world beyond her office cubicle. Today, the 11th of April, 2009, she stood on the swaying deck of a charter boat off the coast of Bimini in the Bahamas. These waters were famous for their shipwrecks and the creatures that inhabited them, especially hammerhead sharks. These odd-looking sharks held a strange fascination for Stella. With their wide-set eyes and distinctive head shape, they were unlike any other predator. They roamed the ocean as apex hunters, graceful and powerful reminders of nature's untamed energy. The rest of her dive group were seasoned veterans, laughing easily as they prepped their gear. Stella felt a pang of self-doubt. This was only her 10th open water dive, hardly enough to tackle a deteriorating shipwreck. Yet an undeniable thrill coursed through her. This felt less like a recreational activity and more like a test of courage. Her dive instructor, Anya, was a force to be reckoned with. With her no-nonsense attitude and weathered face, she'd seen it all in her decade-long dive career. Anya had an uncanny ability to sense Stella's nerves, but tempered her stern guidance with a flicker of encouragement. The former cargo ship's wreck loomed out of the gloom as they descended. Algae clung to its metal carcass, and schools of small, colorful fish darted in and out of its rusted openings. Stella tried to focus on the mesmerizing display of marine life around her, but it was hard to shake the feeling of being watched. The wreck's interior was a labyrinth of narrow passages and decaying compartments. Navigating it required precise movements, a skill Stella struggled with. The darkness closed in on her, and the beams of their flashlights barely cut through the murky water. Hammerhead sharks were drawn to shipwrecks. These hollow structures offered both shelter and hunting grounds. Stella knew the dangers, but understood that most sharks were uninterested in humans. Her rapid breathing echoed strangely in the confines of her regulator. She fought back a rising sense of unease. The focus was crucial for survival. A flicker of movement caught Stella's eye. A massive shape materialized from the darkness, its broad, flat head unmistakable. It was huge, the most giant hammerhead she had ever imagined. Its presence filled the cramped passage, dwarfing her in an instant. The shark circled her slowly, its eyes cold and unreadable. Time seemed to freeze as she was held captive by its unblinking gaze. Stella instinctively pressed herself against the wreck's hull. Her heart pounded like a drum in her chest. The shark inched closer, its hammer-like head swaying side to side as though surveying her from every angle. She knew that sudden movements would provoke an attack. It was purely curious now, but curiosity could turn deadly quickly. Then it lunged. Instinctively, she brought up her camera, using it as a barrier. The shark collided with her, knocking her roughly aside. Pain pierced her shoulder, and her regulator was jostled loose, sputtering air into the water. She scrambled to reinsert it, but her air supply was dwindling dangerously. Anya's voice crackled over their shared communication channel, filled with urgency. Between panicked gasps, Stella conveyed her situation. The veteran diver's reply was clear: ascend immediately but slowly. Having tasted Stella, the shark wouldn't give up easily. She had to move fast but controlled. As she began her ascent, she realized with mounting horror that her movements were agitating the shark. It followed closely, repeatedly bumping her and snapping at her fins. Terror constricted her throat. She needed to reach the open water above the wreck, but the shark shadowed her relentlessly. Stella checked her air gauge. It was alarmingly low. With every passing second, her chance of survival decreased. Anya's instructions were a lifeline. Breathe calmly, ascend consistently, and don't panic. Stella focused on each exhale, desperately willing her burning lungs to obey. Finally, sunlight dappled the surface above, but the shark blocked her path like a terrible guardian. Anya, who had ventured back down, began yelling and banging a metal tank to distract the predator. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed to work. The shark veered slightly away, confused by the noise. Stella seized her chance, kicking upwards with every ounce of remaining strength. She broke through to the surface, gasping for breath. Strong arms hauled her into the boat moments before the shark lunged again, missing her by inches. The crew erupted in cheers as she collapsed onto the deck, sobs of relief mixing with her ragged coughs. Anya checked Stella for injuries, her stern face finally softening with a hint of a smile. The bite wound on her shoulder was shallow, but the mental scars would take longer to heal. The image of the shark's cold, blank eyes would haunt Stella's nightmares for weeks, months, perhaps even years to come. The rest of the journey back to shore was a blur. She sat trembling, a blanket wrapped ineffectually around her shivering form. Somehow, miraculously, she had survived. Back on land, the world felt impossibly bright and loud. The ocean would always hold a strange allure for her. Yet her near-death experience had etched into her a healthy dose of respect, even fear. Diving would always be a part of her life, but from now on she would navigate the depths with hard-won knowledge. She was not the master of this domain, merely a visitor at the mercy of its unpredictable inhabitants. Copacabana Beach in Brazil was a picturesque stretch of coastline where the endless azure waters of the Atlantic met the golden sands. Here, Maria da Silva, a vibrant 16-year-old student with a deep love for the sea, often sought refuge from the demands of life on land. Her hobbies and passions revolved around the water, swimming, surfing, spending countless hours with her friends, sharing laughter and creating cherished memories. On a particularly sunny afternoon, with the rhythmic sound of waves kissing the shore as her backdrop, Maria ventured into the inviting waters of Copacabana Beach. The turquoise expanse beckoned to her, and she eagerly embraced the refreshing embrace of the ocean. The sun warmed her skin, and her laughter mingled with the cries of seagulls overhead as she swam further from the shore. Maria found herself swimming further out as the afternoon sun descended towards the horizon. The waves were gentle, the water clear and inviting. She relished the feeling of weightlessness and freedom as she glided effortlessly through the salty embrace of the Atlantic. But beneath the shimmering surface, a silent predator lurked. Unbeknownst to Maria, a bull shark, an apex predator of these Brazilian waters, had ventured closer to shore than usual. It was drawn by the same allure of the ocean that Maria cherished, driven by instincts that knew no distinction between predator and prey. With a swift and stealthy movement, the bull shark closed the gap between them, its cold black eyes fixed on its unwitting target. In an instant, the tranquility of Maria's swim transformed into a nightmare. The shark's powerful jaws clamped down on her arm and shoulder, its serrated teeth tearing through flesh and bone. Maria's world was suddenly engulfed in a maelstrom of agony and terror. The wind carried away her screams for help, but her thrashing and panic were undeniable signals of distress. These frantic movements caught the attention of a group of vigilant lifeguards stationed along the beach. Reacting with a sense of urgency from a deep understanding of the sea's dangers, the lifeguards sprang into action. They raced towards the scene, their tanned bodies cutting through the sand with purpose. In synchronized coordination, they retrieved rescue equipment. They made their way into the water, driven by the need to save a life. Maria's ordeal continued beneath the waves as the bull shark refused to release its grip. But the lifeguards, armed with experience and training, reached her side. They pried the shark's jaws with remarkable bravery and composure, forcing it to relinquish its prey. The struggle between humans and nature raged, but the lifeguards' determination prevailed. Amidst the chaos, Maria was pulled from the water, her body trembling and her spirit nearly broken. The lifeguards acted swiftly, applying first aid to staunch the blood flow from her grievous wounds. Their quick thinking and calm professionalism were the difference between life and death in this critical moment. With Maria's life hanging in the balance, they carried her limp form back to the safety of the shore. The onlookers, who had been enjoying the idyllic day at the beach just moments before, watched in silent shock as the drama unfolded. Maria's friends, who had been frolicking in the waves nearby, gathered around her, their faces etched with fear and concern. Awaiting the ambulance's arrival, the lifeguards continued to stabilize Maria. Her injuries were severe and the pain must have been excruciating, but her will to survive was unbroken. The lifeguards did their best to provide comfort and reassurance, their faces grim with the knowledge that every passing moment was crucial. The ambulance arrived with a sense of urgency that mirrored the gravity of the situation. Maria was carefully loaded onto a stretcher, her pallor stark against the beach's white sands. With sirens wailing, the ambulance raced through the narrow streets of Serif to the hospital that held the promise of salvation. Upon arrival at the hospital, a team of skilled surgeons and medical professionals awaited Maria's arrival. They had been briefed on the extent of her injuries and were prepared for the daunting task ahead. Time was of the essence, and they wasted no moment in taking her into the operating room. Hours passed, marked by the steady beat of machines and the hushed conversations of medical staff. Maria's parents, who had been notified of the tragic event, waited anxiously in a dimly lit waiting room. Their faces were etched with worry, their hands clasped, silently praying for their daughter's survival. The surgical team worked tirelessly inside the operating room to repair the damage caused by the bull shark's attack. It was a delicate and intricate procedure requiring skill and precision. The hours felt like an eternity as they fought to save Maria's life and salvage what they could of her arm and shoulder. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, the surgery was completed. The team emerged from the operating room, their expressions a mixture of exhaustion and hope. Maria had survived the harrowing ordeal but paid a heavy price. Her arm had been amputated, a sacrifice made to ensure her survival. This incident left an unerasable mark on Maria's body and soul. She would never forget this day. Perhaps she would not be able to swim again. The summer of 1870 came with a disturbing heat wave. Due to the scorching weather, Dave Jansen had moved his family to the Beach Island Resort in New Jersey earlier than expected. The island was their escape every year when summer was in full blow. Dave Jansen was 28, newly married, and just made partner in his law firm. Everything seemed to be up to a perfect start, and Dave couldn't wait for what the future had in store for him. It was 6 p.m. and almost time for Dave and his wife to go downstairs to the dining hall for dinner, when he decided to rush for a quick swim. The heat was stifling, and it seemed as if the air-conditioned rooms were not being much help. A swim was just what he needed. Dave promised his wife he'd be back in less than 30 minutes. It would just be a dip-in and dip-out kind of situation. He rushed out of the house before she could persuade him to stay and use the tub. The tub was nothing like the cool water of the Atlantic. Dave's heart pounded with adrenaline as he raced towards the inviting waters of the Atlantic, seeking relief from the scorching summer heat. The sun had been relentless, and the ocean seemed the perfect escape. The waves crashed gently against the shore, inviting him to plunge into the cool embrace of the sea. With laughter and excitement, he waded into the water. The water was even better than he had imagined. The coolness was a refreshing balm on his skin. He laughed joyfully, savoring the freedom of the moment, completely oblivious to the lurking danger beneath. The ocean was filled with people who probably had the same idea as Dave: to cool off before another hot night. The abundance of prey and the thrashing in the water must have attracted the predator so close to the shore. As Dave waded deeper, the shark sensed an opportunity and lunged toward him, clamping its jaws around his legs. Dave let out a piercing scream, and at first onlookers dismissed Dave's frantic shouts as playful banter. Still, soon they realized the terrifying truth. A shark had caught its prey. Fear and panic spread along the shore as onlookers scrambled to alert the lifeguards. The lifeguards, well-trained and composed, sprang into action without hesitation. With skillful precision, they maneuvered their rescue boats towards Dave, their hearts racing with the situation's urgency. The shark proved to be extremely fierce. This was entirely unlike the animal. Combined with the rare shark attacks, it was completely abnormal for them to swim so close to the shore and attack someone out of the blue. Nothing about this attack was expected, as it proved fiercely tenacious, unwilling to release its grip on Dave's legs. The lifeguards' attempts to pull him to safety were resisted as the predator relentlessly tugged him deeper into the water. Despite the chaos, the lifeguards kept their composure, refusing to back down from the battle for Dave's life. Finally, after an eternity, the lifeguards pulled a bleeding Dave from the water. The sight was horrifying. Dave's left thigh was barely hanging on. Blood streamed from the wound, turning the water crimson. With no time to lose, the lifeguards immediately began applying pressure to the wound to stem the blood flow. It was a race against time to stabilize Dave until emergency services arrived. The team radioed for an ambulance, which raced towards the scene with sirens blaring. As the ambulance arrived, paramedics took over, skillfully tending to Dave's injuries. The bleeding was profuse, and the paramedics worked diligently to stabilize him while providing pain relief. With precision and efficiency, they carefully bandaged his wound, applying a tourniquet to control the bleeding. En route to the hospital, the paramedics monitored Dave's vital signs, ensuring he remained stable. Time seemed to blur as they sped through the streets, every second feeling like an eternity. Meanwhile, news of the incident spread like wildfire, and people across the city held their breath, praying for Dave's survival. At the hospital, a team of skilled surgeons awaited Dave's arrival. They knew that time was of the essence, and they prepared for immediate action. As Dave was rushed into the operating room, the team worked tirelessly to repair the damage inflicted by the shark's bite. Hours passed, and anxiety gripped everyone who awaited news of Dave's condition. Finally, the surgeon emerged, a solemn expression on his face. The operation had succeeded, but the road to recovery would be long and challenging. Dave had lost a significant amount of blood, and while they've tried to salvage what was left of his legs, it'll be a long walk to recovery to determine if he could walk again. Over the following weeks, Dave's friends and family rallied around him, providing unwavering support and encouragement. Becoming whole again would be a long walk, but he refused to give up. With determination and the help of skilled physical therapists, Dave slowly regained his strength and mobility. In the heart of the Amazon basin, nestled near the meandering waters of the Amazon River, the Topoto tribe thrived. Their existence was a testament to the age-old hunting, gathering, and fishing skills, and the intricate knowledge of the medicinal plants that flourished in the lush Amazon jungle. Amongst them was Thiago Ricardo, a young shaman with an unquenchable curiosity for the uncharted herbs and plants that grew along the banks of the mighty Amazon River. On a scorching October morning, Thiago embarked on his daily quest to explore the bounties of nature hidden within the jungle's depths. His slender canoe glided gracefully along the serene waters, propelled by Thiago's skilled paddle strokes. Periodically, he would pause, carefully stepping out onto the swampy surface, his sharp eyes scanning the undergrowth for any sign of the elusive herbs he sought. After each excursion into the wilderness, he would return to his canoe, continuing his journey deeper into the heart of the Amazon. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Thiago decided it was time to return to the tribe. The dense canopy overhead filtered the harsh sunlight, casting mottled shadows upon the river's surface. Thiago dipped his paddle into the water, its rhythmic splashes harmonizing with the chorus of the jungle. Little did he know that this ordinary day would soon become a life-or-death struggle against the unforgiving forces of nature. Without warning, a monstrous form lurked beneath the surface of the river. A colossal bull shark's dorsal fin slicing through the water surged upwards with terrifying force. The canoe was upended in an instant, sending Thiago tumbling into the murky depths of the Amazon. Panic coursed through him as he fought to regain his bearings. The bull shark, a relentless predator of the Amazon River, wasted no time closing the distance. With a swift, calculated strike, it clamped its razor-sharp jaws around Thiago's leg. Agonizing pain surged through him as he desperately grappled with the ferocious beast. The struggle was brutal, and Thiago's body bore the marks of a harrowing battle. Thiago managed to wrench himself free from the shark's grip in a final surge of determination. Blood clouded the water as he kicked towards the surface, his lungs aching for air. With a gasping breath, he broke through the surface, his injured leg throbbing with every movement. Bruised and battered, Thiago clung to the remains of his overturned canoe. He knew he had to reach the safety of the riverbank, but the path to survival would be treacherous. He gathered his remaining strength and began to swim towards the distant shore. The journey was a grueling test of endurance. Thiago's wounded leg slowed him down, and the relentless current of the Amazon River fought against his every stroke. The dense, unforgiving jungle on either side seemed impenetrable, but he knew he had no choice. Time passed slowly, marked only by the relentless jungle drone and the ceaseless pain radiating from his injuries. Inch by agonizing inch, Thiago made his way toward the riverbank. The air was humid and sweat mingled with his blood-soaked clothes. The infection began to set in, a cruel companion to his already dire circumstances. Despite the odds stacked against him, Thiago's determination burned brightly. His tribe, his people, and the knowledge of the medicinal plants he sought to protect fueled his relentless struggle. He couldn't allow himself to succumb to the tenacious grasp of the Amazon River. He pushed himself with all his might and reached the riverbank. He escaped the Amazon River, but now he was at the mercy of the Amazon's swampy jungle. The sun dipped below the canopy, casting long shadows across the water's surface. Darkness settled upon the jungle, and Thiago's strength waned with each passing moment as he limped. He knew he couldn't continue much longer. Every step on the wet surface of the jungle was an act of sheer will. Every gasping breath a battle against the encroaching despair. But fate had a different plan that would not grant Thiago the mercy of salvation. As the night wore on, his strength finally failed him. The relentless infection, coupled with the exhaustion, proved too much for his battered body to bear. His steps grew weaker, his movements more sluggish, until he finally succumbed to the Amazon jungle's unforgiving embrace. With its myriad secrets and merciless beauty, the jungle claimed Thiago as its own. The river that had been his lifeblood became his final resting place. His journey, filled with hopes and dreams of preserving the knowledge of his tribe, ended in a cruel and lonely death. 2 days passed before the tribe realized that Thiago had not returned. Concerned for their young shaman, they set out in search of him, following the same river that had taken him from them. The jungle, dense and unforgiving, yielded no immediate answers. Then, amidst the tangled undergrowth, they discovered the remnants of Thiago's canoe. Their hearts sank as they realized the truth, but they pressed on, determined to find him. Their search led them to the riverbank, where they found the lifeless body of their beloved Thiago. The tribe mourned the loss of their young shaman, a guardian of their ancient knowledge. His passing was a stark reminder of the harsh and unpredictable environment they called home. In the Amazon, life and death danced an eternal, unforgiving tango. Thiago's legacy lived on in the hearts and minds of his people, who continued to rely on the skills he had passed down to them. They hunted, gathered, fished, and tended to their medicinal plants with a profound reverence for the natural world that sustained and took their beloved Thiago. In the heart of the Amazon basin, the Topoto tribe endured, their connection to the jungle and its mysteries stronger than ever. And as they looked out upon the mighty Amazon River, they remembered Thiago Ricardo, the young shaman who had ventured into its depths in search of knowledge and never returned, a testament to the untamed beauty and relentless challenges of the Amazon. It was 6 a.m., and Elizabeth Hurley's alarm was already ringing loudly on the bedside table. She woke up with a jolt and quickly slammed the alarm shut. Summer of 1990 was creeping in slowly. She could already feel the difference in the temperature. It took Elizabeth a moment to remember where she was, even though she'd been on vacation for 2 weeks. Elizabeth was vacationing in Hawaii, a means to heal from the result of a nasty divorce between her and Ben. 4 years, wasted and tossed down the drain. Her escape to Hawaii came when she knew she'd lose her mind if she spent any other day dealing with the divorce lawyers in California. So she impulsively bought a ticket with no luggage or planning and made her way to Hawaii. So far, the journey had proved to be one of the smartest decisions she'd made in a long time. Elizabeth was finally letting go of the anger and self-doubt. She was finally healing. And she'd even picked up a nice new hobby, kayaking. On the first few days in Hawaii, Elizabeth had wondered how to get through the flood of emotions that were hitting her like a storm. She didn't believe in shrinks. Elizabeth knew she needed a way to heal and discover new and serene peace. This was when she discovered kayaking. Elizabeth quickly fell in love with the serene feeling of gliding through the clear waters on her kayak. And just like that, it became her daily ritual. Every morning she reserved the first 2 hours for kayaking, appreciating the stunning sunrises and the calming rhythm of the waves. This daily ritual became her form of meditation, providing her with a sense of tranquility and newfound purpose. This morning wasn't going to be any different. Elizabeth quickly slid down from the bed. She tied her hair to a messy bun and went straight for the bathroom, changing into her kayaking gear. She loved being the first to get to the ocean. It was almost as if the water was always waiting for her. Today she hurriedly went through her preparation steps. She couldn't wait to get to the water, which would be a perfect change from the warm weather. Being new to kayaking, Elizabeth could have been better, but there was no doubt that she was improving every day. She could now paddle for long minutes without the usual ache that made her almost give up on kayaking when she started. When she exited the hotel, she found that the sun was rising. It cast its golden rays over the horizon, bathing the water with golden bright light. Elizabeth stood by the beach for some minutes, savoring the insane scenery. This was why she'd chosen this particular hotel for her getaway. The seaside beauty was a marvel, sitting majestically across the sea. Elizabeth slowly ventured out into the ocean, paddling gently on her kayak. The sea was tranquil, lulling her into the deep feeling of security she knew all too well. It was almost as if the water had become her shrink, and they both communicated in a way nobody else would understand. But all Elizabeth knew was that her daily morning ritual played a significant role in keeping her sane. Elizabeth was initially scared of going alone into the ocean because of her fear of sharks. She blamed her fear of the aquatic predator on her addiction to reading stories of animal attacks, especially sharks. The locals had assured her that such events were uncommon, and encounters with sharks were typically from a distance. They explained that the only location where the sharks were commonly sighted was far from the shore. Due to their reassurance, Elizabeth had come to see the ocean as her safe place. She was entirely in zen when she was in the ocean. When she had paddled a few times, Elizabeth let her paddle float by the side as she lay down on the kayak to stare at the rising sun and go through her feelings that morning. She was struck thinking of the beauty of nature and the sun and slowly drifted off to sleep. Elizabeth had barely slept for 20 minutes when she woke up with a jolt. Something had drifted underneath the kayak. She couldn't believe she had fallen asleep. Exhaustion from staying up late last night watching her favorite movie, and the soothing rhythm of the waves had lulled her into a surprise slumber. Elizabeth immediately sat up and noticed she was more than a mile from the ocean shore. She thought a strong current must have pulled her out, her heart pounding. Almost immediately, she felt something dart through her kayak again. It wasn't very bright yet, so she thought her mind was playing tricks on her. But as she turned, she saw the sharp fins slicing through the water. Elizabeth was in full panic. She immediately grabbed the paddle and tried to bring the kayak back to the shores. She then recalled the locals mentioning an area known for shark sightings and realized she had strayed into dangerous waters. The Florida Keys held a salty, sun-worn familiarity for Noah Cartwright. It was a humid summer morning, August 1st, 2009. His weathered hands gripped the wheel of his fishing boat, the Lucy Belle. She wasn't much to look at, but she was sturdy, bearing the marks of years spent battling sun and sea. For Noah, these waters weren't just a source of livelihood, but etched into his very being. He'd been a fisherman since he could walk. His dad, a burly man with a thick beard and a booming laugh, had taught him the ocean's currents, hidden reefs, and unspoken language. Years later, Noah was still on the water, making a modest living from the sea's bounty. It wasn't an easy life, but it was the only one he knew and cared for. This morning, however, a strange sense of unease prickled along his skin. The sky was clear, not a hint of storm, yet something felt off. Even the usual squabbling gulls seemed strangely subdued. Hammerheads were the sharks to fear in these waters. Powerful stalkers, their heads were flattened into that unmistakable T-shape. They weren't as large as some species, but they were fearless, often curious, and known to be aggressive. Noah scanned the horizon. He didn't crave adrenaline or confrontation, quite the opposite. But years of experience had taught him to trust his instincts. Reaching under the helm, he pulled out a pair of well-used binoculars. Far off, near the edge of the reef drop-off, something significant was cruising the surface. A shiver ran down his spine. He nudged the throttle forward, the Lucy Belle churning through the choppy water. Even from a distance, the shape was unmistakable. Hammerhead, a big one. Noah's mouth tightened with apprehension. That thing could sink his boat or worse. He wasn't afraid. He'd faced down sharks before. But something about this creature, the sheer size of it, sent a jolt of unease through him. Noah's life hadn't been a steady tide. There was the year he'd nearly lost the boat in a storm and the slow months when catches were scarce. He'd weathered it all with quiet determination, the sea both his sanctuary and his adversary. But today, as he pulled alongside the giant shark, the vast indifference of the ocean pressed down upon him. He was small, vulnerable, and the shark? It was a reminder of the old untamed power of the deep. The hammerhead circled the boat. its dark eye cold and calculating. Noah tossed a chum bucket overboard, a desperate gamble to distract it. The water churned as the fish scraps caught the shark's attention, but the effect was short-lived. The creature fixated on the boat, and the man in it seemed uninterested in an easy meal. Noah's heart hammered against his ribs. He grabbed his harpoon, its weight a familiar comfort. It was a crude weapon against a predator this size, but better than nothing. The shark bumped the hull, a monstrous fish in a pool too small. The Lucy Belle shuddered under the impact and Noah stumbled. He needed to buy time to create distance. Revving the engine, he pushed the boat hard into reverse. The shark seemed startled momentarily, and he gained a few precious yards. Then, with terrifying speed, it powered forward, slashing at the stern. Half lifting from the water, the propeller screeched as the shark's head thrashed dangerously close. The boat lurched violently. Noah lost his footing, tumbling against the gunwale. Pain flared in his ribs as they slammed against the unforgiving metal. He saw the shark draw back, readying for another strike. He had mere seconds. In a move born of desperation and years of instinct, Noah didn't retreat. He lunged forward, the harpoon a lance in his hands. He felt the tip strike something solid and heard the roar of pain and fury from the shark. It thrashed, its hammer-like head slamming into the boat, rocking it side to side. A sickening crunch, a splinter of wood flying past his face. The shark had breached the flimsy hull. Water gushed in, a frantic slap against his legs. Panic threatened to consume him, but he fought it back. The Lucy Belle was sinking, and the chaos and scent of blood still drew the enraged shark. He scrambled for the life raft, his movements clumsy with shock and pain. He saw a flash of gray, the shark's gaping maw lunging at him. He twisted away and felt teeth scrape his arm, a burning line of agony. Then he was in the water, the raft bobbing a few feet away. The Lucy Belle, his livelihood, was swallowed by the waves. The shark circled, injured but far from finished. Noah's world narrowed. It was just him, his flimsy raft, and the ancient, hungry creature below. The sun beat down relentlessly. Fear mingled with the taste of salt and blood in his mouth. Minutes he stretched into an eternity. Would rescue arrive in time? Would the shark tire of its sport? Or was he destined to disappear without a trace, another victim claimed by the indifferent sea? Then in the distance, a speck against the horizon. A boat coming his way. He found his voice, a cracked yell for help. His relief was quickly tempered. The shark could hear him too. It charged one last furious attack. Noah scrambled onto the flimsy raft. The shark struck, its jaws snapping around the flimsy rubber, and then it was gone. He watched, heart pounding, as the shark dwindled into the vast blue. Rescue arrived soon after, hauling him into the safety of another vessel. He was battered and bleeding, his ordeal stark on his face. Yet in his eyes there was a flicker of defiant triumph. Against all odds, he had survived. The hammerhead may have gotten his boat, but it didn't get him. And for a seasoned fisherman like Noah, that was enough. In the vast Pacific Ocean, the Aquatica was an expedition ship that sailed with a determined elegance, slicing through the waves effortlessly. Dr. Marcus Reed, a renowned figure in marine biology, stood at the helm, his eyes shining with excitement and his heart racing with anticipation. Reed grew up in a family of sailors, and his love for the sea was ingrained in him from childhood. He spent his early years exploring the rugged coastlines near his home, fueling his passion for the ocean. Through years of study at prestigious institutions, Reed became an expert in marine ecosystems, earning recognition for his groundbreaking research and innovative methods. Known affectionately as Doc by his crewmates, Reed's thirst for adventure and knowledge was unmatched. And so, with each gust of wind and every rolling wave, he felt the magnetic pull of the sea urging him to uncover its hidden secrets. As the Aquatica sailed onward, the crew bustled with activity, each member dedicated to their tasks with a sense of reverence. Meticulous preparations were underway before the fearless marine biologist Doc Reed could embark on his dive. Deckhands carefully secured his diving gear, ensuring everything was tightly fastened. Meanwhile, the ship's engineer diligently checked the oxygen tanks, ensuring they were filled to the brim and in perfect working order. Doc Reed double-checked every detail, his excitement building as he prepared to dive into the mysterious depths below. With a final acknowledgement to the crew above, Doc Reed took a leap of faith into the deep blue, his senses heightened with anticipation. His communication device crackled to life as he descended, a reassuring voice guiding him through the intricate exploration. Meanwhile, back on the ship, the crew gathered around the monitor, eagerly watching Doc Reed's progress through his own eyes. With bated breath, they followed his journey into the unknown depths, his solitary figure disappearing into the ocean's dark depths. As the Doc swam to the ocean floor, the team was greeted by an awe-inspiring sight. Sunlight filtered through the water, illuminating the coral gardens below in a mesmerizing display of colors. Ethereal shadows danced across the ocean floor as the light played through the waves. Schools of dazzling fish darted gracefully, their scales glinting like precious gems in the gentle currents. Amidst this underwater paradise lay their target, a newly discovered coral reef holding mysteries waiting to be unraveled. Yet beneath all that surface beauty, ancient dangers lurked. While Dr. Reed was engrossed in this seemingly routine dive to gather samples, tragedy struck with sudden and brutal force, sending shockwaves through the crew. From the shadows emerged a titan of the deep, a great white shark, its predatory instincts finely tuned to deadly precision. It made its approach, and there was little or no time for Dr. Reed to react. The shark's jaws opened and closed on Dr. Reed's arm as he struggled to free himself. In an instant, tranquility turned to chaos as panic and fear gripped the hearts of all who witnessed the unfolding horror. With nerves of steel and hearts pounding with adrenaline, the crew rallied around their fallen leader, their determination unyielding in the face of impending danger that already looked very bad. Captain Jack immediately took charge. His voice cut through the chaos, and his commands a guiding light as they battled fiercely to pull Doc out of the water and repel the relentless predator. But despite their bravery, the damage was done, and Dr. Reed lay motionless, his life hanging in the balance. Back aboard the Aquatica, amidst a whirlwind of frantic activity, the crew worked tirelessly to stabilize their injured comrade. With trembling hands and furrowed brows, they tended to his wounds, their minds consumed by worry and urgency as they raced against time to reach the safety of the nearest port. Every moment was precious as they fought to keep hope alive for their beloved colleague. Hours stretched into an eternity as the Aquatica forged through the relentless waves. Each passing moment seemed to emphasize the delicate nature of life. The distant silhouette of the shoreline gradually emerged on the horizon, accompanied by the mournful wail of sirens. Indeed, a bittersweet mix of relief and sorrow enveloped the weary crew. And despite the earnest efforts of the skilled medical team awaiting their arrival, Dr. Reed slipped away, leaving behind an irreplaceable void. His departure sent shockwaves through the scientific community, serving as a poignant reminder of the perils hidden beneath the surface of their research. Yet, amid the grief and sorrow, Dr. Reed's legacy burned brightly. Regardless, it assumed a source of inspiration for future generations of marine biologists. While his journey met an untimely end, the discoveries he made and the passion he ignited would persist, casting a guiding light for all who dared to explore the vast and wondrous depths of the ocean. Suffice it to say, as the Aquatica sailed onwards, it echoed Dr. Reed's spirit and the hopes and dreams of those who aspired to follow in his footsteps. Isla Mackenzie stared across the endless blue of the Indian Ocean. Sea spray glittered in the South African sun as their boat, the Ocean Drifter, bobbed rhythmically. It was the 12th of July, 2001, a day etched into Isla's memory forever. A veteran diver with countless hours exploring the world below, she was on assignment with her longtime partner, Jonah Van Dyke. Jonah was a bear of a man, his tanned face a roadmap of a life lived outdoors, a stark contrast to Isla's lean frame and sun-kissed freckles. They were a mismatched pair, yet their shared love for the ocean made them an unstoppable team. Today was no ordinary dive. They were off the coast of Gansbai, known as the significant white shark capital of the world. These magnificent but fearsome creatures were as mysterious as they were dangerous. Isla had a healthy respect for these animals. Despite years of experience, the thrill of being close to such raw power was undeniable. The morning it started like any other. In her well-worn wetsuit, Isla and Jonah wrestled the heavy steel cage into the water. Their observation pod allowed safe, close-up encounters with the sharks. The crew, buzzing with nervous excitement, baited the water with fish parts and oils, creating a slick to attract their star. As Hila slipped into the cage, she felt a familiar pang of anticipation mixed with caution. She checked her oxygen tank and regulator, and the rhythm of her breaths was a soothing mantra in the silence of the descent. Below, the world transformed. Gone was the sun-dappled surface. Here, all was deep blue and calm tranquility. Already submerged and keeping watch, Jonah signaled to her from outside the cage. With a final deep breath, Isla closed the hatch and sank into the heart of the shark's domain. It was a waiting game now. Great whites were intelligent predators, patient and cunning. Years of study, they taught her about their acute senses of smell and sight. They could detect minute electrical currents emitted by living creatures. Jonah's missing leg was a constant reminder that nature played by its own rules down here. Isla loved her work but never forgot the inherent danger. Time, they seemed to both crawl and race underwater. Shadows flickered in the periphery of Isla's vision, but the great white remained elusive. Just as a numbing sense of routine began, a colossal shape materialized from the blue gloom. The shark was enormous, easily 5 meters long. Its skin was scarred, a testament to countless battles fought and won. It circled the cage slowly, its dark eyes seeming to fix on Isla with chilling intelligence. Something wasn't right. The shark's movements were erratic, unlike the calculated passes she was familiar with. And then it struck. With astonishing speed, the shark rammed the cage, the steel bars groaning and buckling under the impact. The force knocked Isla off her feet, sending her tumbling. Desperately, she grabbed a handhold as another blow shuttered the cage. The shark was in a frenzy, a mindless machine of teeth and muscle. Panic threatened to consume Isla. Yet beneath the terror, her diver training kicked in. She forced herself to breathe slowly to assess the situation. The cage, though dented, was holding. Her oxygen supply was intact. But for how long? The shark attacked again, this time targeting a corner of the cage. The bars bent with a screech, the gap between them widening alarmingly. Ila's heart pounded in her ears. The shark, sensing weakness, thrashed against the cage, its jaws wide open. Then, with a sickening twist, a bar snapped. Metal shrieked as another followed suit. Salt water rushed in as the shark lunged, its massive head thrusting through the widening gap. Isla scrambled back, barely evading the snapping mass of teeth. This wasn't a curious nudge, this was an all-out attack. In a desperate move, she grabbed a spare tank, using it to wedge against the predator's snout. Simultaneously, she fumbled for the emergency release on the cage hatch. The shark thrashed, its rough scales scraping against her skin, its eye rolling wildly. With a final desperate shove, Isla propelled herself out of the broken cage. The shark swiveled, a blur of white and gray, narrowly missing her outstretched legs. She kicked frantically towards the surface, and the image of the shark's open maw burned into her mind. When her lungs screamed for air, Isla gasped frantically through the waves. Strong hands hauled her roughly onto the boat deck. It was Jonah, his face a mask of strained fear. She could barely speak, only pointing feebly back towards the water. The crew acted quickly, winching the damaged cage out of the depths. It emerged twisted and shattered, a testament to the raw power of the ocean's apex predator. But the shark vanished back into the blue where it belonged. Isla sat trembling, her wetsuit ripped and bloodied. The aftermath was a blur of questions, medical checks, and concerned faces. Later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and purple, Isla found herself alone on the deck, staring into the darkening water where her ordeal had unfolded. She had cheated death, but the experience had changed her. Once a familiar playground, the ocean now held a hint of menace. Images of the attack haunted her dreams. It would take time to heal, both physically and mentally. And though Isla would return to the sea she loved, she knew a sliver of innocence was lost forever in those steel-barred depths. The waters off Ticao Bay sparkled with a deceptive serenity. It was a dazzling sight, a deceptive one for Mia Sinclair. While the Philippines held a certain allure, the promise of tropical paradise, she knew the ocean could turn in a heartbeat. Here, the calm blues concealed a world of predators and hidden currents. Today, a sliver of unease gnawed at her, despite the gentle lapping of the waves against the dive boat. It was July 22, 2007. She'd been an avid snorkeler since childhood, a deep-rooted fascination drawing her to the world beneath the surface. But this was different. This was her first true open-water dive, a stepping stone into a realm that demanded respect, not just wonder. Beside her, her dive instructor, Thomas Rivera, ran through the safety checks. A weathered island native, Thomas inspired a mixture of trust and a twinge of nervousness. His gruff voice and heavily tattooed arms told of a long, intimate relationship with the ocean. Tiger sharks were the dominant predators here, sleek and powerful. They patrolled the reefs, drawn in by the vibrant marine life, but attacks on humans were rare. Still, Mia couldn't shake the feeling of eyes watching from the blue depths. The island was wild, a speck of lush green rising from the sea. For her, it had been a refuge. A year earlier, a devastating loss had left her adrift, the emptiness threatening to consume her. The Philippines wasn't an escape. It was a desperate attempt to find a way back to life, to reconnect with the world beyond her grief. The descent was disorienting. Sunlight gave way to shimmering blue-green, and the silence felt heavy. This wasn't the colorful, teeming world of shallow reefs. She focused on her breathing, the steady hiss of the regulator, letting Thomas guide her deeper. The reef materialized from the gloom, a coral fortress rising from the ocean floor. Schooling fish darted aside like shimmering jewels, their movements hypnotic. For a fleeting moment, Mia's anxieties melted away. Then she saw it. The shark was enormous, easily 12 feet long, and its stripes starkly contrasted against the dusky water. It moved with a slow, menacing grace, utterly unlike the skittish reef denizens Mia was used to. This was an apex predator, an embodiment of the ocean's raw power. Her pulse hammered in her ears. Tomas squeezed her arm, a silent command to stay calm, but a ripple of apprehension ran through her. This wasn't fascination anymore. This was fear, pure and sharp. The shark circled, its dark eye fixed on them. Mia's mind raced, searching for a plan to escape. Tomas held up a hand, signaling her to stay still. Every instinct in her body screamed to flee, but she forced herself to obey. Then the impossible happened. The shark charged, not at Tomas but at her. The time it was fractured. She saw the maw open, a cavern lined with gleaming teeth. A muffled scream tore from her throat as the creature struck. The world exploded into pain. Searing agony ripped through her shoulder and chest. She felt herself twisted and dragged through the water. The ocean turned crimson around her, the color of fear. She was going to die here. The realization wasn't an abstract thought, but a cold, brutal certainty. Then, fighting through the shock, a primal defiance ignited within her. She kicked and thrashed, her injured arm flailing. She would not become prey, not without a fight. The shark released her, momentarily startled by her defiance. Mia felt a rush of hope as Tomas grabbed her arm. Together they kicked towards the reef, leaving a bloody trail in their wake. It felt like an eternity, each second fraught with terror. Mia's vision blurred, the pain threatening to consume her. She knew Thomas yelling, his voice rough and panicked, but the words didn't make sense. The shark returned, drawn by the blood and their movement. It lunged again, and Mia saw Thomas throw his body in front of hers. She saw him grapple with the massive beast and the water churning with violence that stole her breath. Somehow, miraculously, Thomas shoved the shark away. Yelling and strong hands were pulling her upwards. Her vision narrowed, and then darkness swept over her. She awoke on the boat, the pain a constant screaming presence. There was a rough bandage on her shoulder, blood seeping through, and a makeshift IV dripping fluids into her arm. Thomas's face hovered over her, etched with worry and a grim sort of triumph. She wasn't sure how they'd made it. It was a blur of blood and flashing teeth and the overwhelming urge to live. The shore seemed impossibly far away, but they were moving, the engine of the boat straining. There was a distant thrumming, the growing beat of helicopter rotors. Rescue was coming, a sliver of hope against the enormity of what she had endured. For a moment the darkness threatened to pull her under again, but then a new feeling blossomed within her. Not just relief, but something fiercer, more potent. She had survived. Hours later, in the sterile confines of a hospital room, the full extent of her injuries became apparent. There were ragged wounds, torn muscles, and a lingering terror that wouldn't be easily excised. Yet there was something else there too, a profound understanding of her strength. The ocean could be cruel, and she was forever scarred. But she had looked into the abyss and fought her way back. The Mia who emerged from that bloody encounter was not the broken woman who'd fled to those distant shores. She was forged in the survival fire, the girl who danced with a shark and lived to tell the tale. The sun was rising on the 22nd of September 1980. The salty sea breeze swept across the golden sands of Ocean Beach near Whangarei on the North Island of New Zealand. 25-year-old Ashley Benson, a seasoned lifeguard passionate about the ocean, stood at the water's edge, her eyes scanning the horizon. It was a beautiful morning, perfect for a training swim. As a lifeguard, Ashley took her responsibilities seriously, always prepared for any situation that might arise in the unpredictable water. She had been part of the lifeguard team at the island for a year now, and it was a role she took proudly. But before Ashley and her fellow lifeguards set out on their training swim, she couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. It was almost like a foreboding, but she couldn't tell if it was something good or not. She almost canceled the training swim, but it'll make no sense to cancel training based solely on a hunch. As the group of lifeguards ventured about 100 meters off the shore, the morning sun cast a shimmering path on the glistening waters, and the dolphins' playful splashes in the distance created a joyful soundtrack. However, something shifted in the atmosphere, catching Ashley's attention. Usually carefree and distant, the dolphins began to swim with purpose, drawing nearer to the lifeguards. In a mesmerizing display of unity, the dolphins formed a tight circle around the swimmers, their sleek bodies gracefully gliding through the water. It was as if they deeply understood their roles as guardians, encircling the lifeguards in an unusual and almost protective manner. Ashley felt a sense of connection with these intelligent creatures as they swam closer, their eyes seeming to hold a profound message. As the dolphins moved in their circular formation, Ashley noticed that they were not just acting on instinct, but communicating with each other in a way she had never witnessed before. Their chirps, clicks, and whistles seemed to blend into a harmonious language, a symphony of communication that transcended human comprehension. Time seemed to slow down as Ashley became captivated by this extraordinary display. It was as if the dolphins were sharing ancient wisdom with each other, acknowledging the importance of the mission at hand. Their telepathic connection amplifies their intentions, conveying a shared purpose to safeguard the lifeguards from an unseen threat. Amid this surreal experience, Ashley's awe was accompanied by a tingling sense of anticipation. The lifeguards, too, felt the weight of the dolphins' presence and were attuned to their every move. It was clear that something significant was happening in the ocean's depths, and the lifeguards couldn't help but feel both honored and humbled to be part of this extraordinary moment. The dolphins' unity intensified as they continued their swim, and their synchronized movements took on a profound meaning. They began to slap the water with their fins, creating a rhythmic pulse that resonated with the lifeguards' hearts. Each slap seemed to echo like a beacon, signaling a message to the ocean depths. Ashley's heart pounded as she realized the dolphins' vigilance was directed toward a common enemy, a massive great white shark lurking far from the group. The predator's ominous presence sent a shiver down her spine. Still, the dolphin's unwavering commitment to protection brought a sense of calm amidst the danger. With her eyes fixed on the shark, Ashley felt an unspoken understanding pass between her and the dolphins. An unbreakable bond was forged in that fleeting moment, transcending the barriers of species and language. It was a testament to the intricate tapestry of life and the interwoven connections that bound every living being in the ocean's vastness. Through the harmony of their movements, the dolphins conveyed a powerful message of unity, protection, and shared responsibility for the fragile balance of life. In that extraordinary encounter, Ashley recognized the intricate web of relationships between the ocean's inhabitants and her role as a lifeguard sworn to protect and preserve. The dolphins' resolve remained steadfast as the sun continued its ascent into the sky. They continued their vigilant watch over the lifeguards, creating a safe haven in the churning waters. The bond formed between Ashley and these gentle guardians was etched into her heart, leaving an indelible mark that would forever shape her connection with the ocean and its inhabitants. With a steady hand, Ashley led the swimmers outside the circle of dolphins, watching the shark's movements. Undeterred by the predator's presence, the dolphins continued their vigilant protection. Thankfully, the situation took a turn for the better when a rescue boat approached the area. As the boat approached, the shark decided to retreat, eventually disappearing into the ocean's depths. The dolphins stayed until the swimmers were safely back on dry land, leaving only when they were sure their mission was complete. The experience left Ashley in awe of the incredible bond between humans and animals. She knew she had witnessed something remarkable that day. This event forever changed her perspective on life and the ocean she loved. From that moment on, she would carry with her a profound respect for the creatures she shared the waters with, understanding that even in the vastness of the sea, connection and protection could be found in the unlikeliest places. 24-year-old James Reed couldn't hide his excitement as he strolled around the beach. He would be participating in the annual Inter-Pacific spearfishing competition in New Caledonia. James had gotten to the island a week earlier to get a scope of the landscape. He had spoken with the locals and checked out the expansive water which isolated the island from the rest of the world. For James, safety was paramount during most of his excursions in water. Naturally, while taking a leisure stroll among the locals, he asked about shark sightings in the area. Still, the locals explained that while there were sightings, they were rare in the area they'll be holding the competition. The island's beauty was breathtaking, with its lush green landscapes, crystal clear waters, and golden sandy beaches. Noumea, where the competition was being held, was a picturesque paradise that captivated James from the moment he arrived. While the competition was the next day, James was already brimming with excitement and anticipation. He woke up early that morning feeling nervous and determined. He went through his pre-dive routine meticulously, ensuring that all his gear was in perfect condition, and mentally preparing himself for the challenges ahead. James set out on his diving expedition as the sun rose over the horizon, casting a warm glow on the waters so blue it almost looked artificial. James couldn't help but marvel at the vibrant marine life surrounding him, and the captivating coral reefs made his heart swell with wonder. James knew he was very good at what he did. A testament to this was that he could dive without oxygen tasks, which he would be doing today. James had mastered the art of breath-holding, a skill that further enhanced his connection with the sea, and seeing that he needed to be extremely swift to win this competition, the oxygen task would only slow him down. However, James's joy turned to terror amid his dive when a massive great white shark suddenly appeared. The creature's powerful jaws clamped around his middle instantly, locking him in its deadly grip. Panic threatened to consume him, but James relied on his years of training to remain composed. He fought back fiercely, attempting to escape the predator's relentless grasp. The undeterred shark kept coming back, inflicting wounds upon James with every attempt. Despite the pain and fear, James remembered his training, kept his composure, and focused on survival. Desperately holding on to the shark's massive body, James experienced a harrowing ride beneath the sea. The creature's violent thrashing attempted to dislodge him. Still, he clung on with a determination from years of training and time spent in the sea. It was a battle of strength and willpower, and James refused to back down. If this was his end, history would say he went down fighting. James's only hope was to dislodge the shark's strong jaws from his arms, and the animal would swim away, hoping it would realize he wasn't what it expected. James pulled what was left of his arm with force out of the shark's mouth. With adrenaline still pumping through his body, he couldn't feel the pain or the length of damage. His sole focus was survival. He needed to swim to the surface if he had any hope of surviving. His prayers were answered as lifesavers from the shore witnessed the terrifying scene unfold. Racing to his rescue, one of the lifesavers quickly divided and dragged him to the surface, quickly pushing him onto their boat, valiantly saving him from the jaws of death. The sight that met the rescuers was shocking. James's right hand and arm were mangled, and his rib cage, lungs, and upper stomach were grievously exposed. It was a gruesome sight, and it was way beyond their experience. Their only option was to apply pressure to stem the bleeding and prevent any of his vital organs from spilling from the gaping wounds. James was rushed to the nearby hospital, where he underwent a grueling 4-hour surgery, where skilled surgeons carefully pieced his skin back together with an astonishing 450 stitches. His road to recovery was shaky. Even the doctors couldn't say if he was in the clear. Word of James's incredible survival spread like wildfire across the island. Even the competition had to be stopped. The tale of a fearless diver facing off against one of the ocean's greatest predators And being alive after such mortal wounds was something everyone found astonishing. After encountering the great white shark, James Reed's life turned out unexpectedly. The physical wounds he endured were nothing compared to the emotional turmoil that followed. Nightmares haunted his sleep. The sight of the ocean brought shivers down his spine. Overwhelmed by fear and doubt, he questioned whether he would ever find the strength to dive again. The support of his loved ones and fellow divers kept him going. Their encouragement and empathy became his guiding light, propelling him forward on the road to recovery. As he painstakingly rebuilt his strength and endured countless hours of rehabilitation, a transformation began to unfold. James discovered newfound resilience within himself as he faced the fear that had threatened to consume him head-on. Slowly but steadily, he embarked on tentative dives, overcoming each hurdle with grit and determination. The ocean, once a source of terror, became his crucible of healing, and with every stroke through the water, he reclaimed his connection with the sea. Through his journey of triumph over adversity, James Reed evolved from a fearless diver into a living testament of courage and resilience, inspiring countless individuals worldwide with his indomitable spirit. Nestled snugly along the coastline of Azure Sands Islands, white sands gleamed like a precious jewel in the vast ocean. Its beaches are lined with graceful palm trees, hugged by waters so clear you can see the ocean floor. This vista was painted with sunsets that stole your breath and created a picture-perfect paradise. It was a place where people came to escape the chaos of their daily lives, where the rhythm of life slowed to match the gentle ebb and flow of the waves. Though tucked away from the bustling cities, Azure Sands had earned a glowing reputation among travelers. Visitors couldn't stop singing praises about the warm hospitality they received and the sheer magnificence of the natural surroundings. Reviews overflowed with tales of impeccable service and accommodations so luxurious they felt like a dream. From families seeking a peaceful retreat to honeymooners longing for romance, Azure Sands catered to every whim with finesse. Even during the quieter times of the year, when discounts beckoned and the crowds thinned, Azure Sands remained a coveted destination. Savvy travelers knew that even with reduced rates, they were in for a treat. A chance to experience paradise without burning a hole in their pockets. It was a place where worries melted away with each gentle wave, leaving behind nothing but pure bliss. On a morning so perfect it could have been plucked from a postcard, a lively group of vacationers assembled at the water's edge, their laughter harmonizing with the gentle rhythm of the waves. At the forefront was Alex, a young man bubbling with energy and a passion for adventure. Alongside him stood Sarah, whose love for nature was matched only by her skill with a camera, and Max, a carefree surfer who thrived on the adrenaline rush of riding waves. Equipped with snorkels and brimming with excitement, they hoped to uncover the secrets hidden beneath the azure depths. As they ventured further into the ocean, their senses were inundated by a mesmerizing display of colors. It was undoubtedly a dazzling mosaic painted by nature herself. Yet, amidst this beautiful underwater symphony, a dark shape emerged from the depths, a silent predator prowling in search of prey. In an instant, the tranquility everyone enjoyed was shattered as chaos ensued with the sudden strike of this same shark. The group found themselves thrust into a terrifying ordeal, their hearts pounding in their chests as they grappled with the reality of the situation. Panic swept through the group like wildfire as Alex found himself trapped in the predator's jaws, his cries for help muffled by the ocean's roar. Tourists scrambled frantically, their hearts pounding with fear and disbelief as they watched the terrifying scene unfold before their eyes in the near distance. Back at the resort, chaos erupted as word of the attack spread like wildfire. The experienced head lifeguard, Emily, sprang into action, drawing on her years of expertise to mobilize the resort staff and coordinate a rapid response team for the search and rescue operation. With a sense of urgency hanging thick in the air, everyone rallied together, determined to find Alex and bring him to safety. With each passing moment, tension mounted, transforming the once serene oasis into a battleground of fear. Emily led her team with unwavering resolve, their minds consumed by the pressing need to locate their missing guest. He could still be saved. Every available resource was pressed into service, from deploying drones to scouring the coastline. as they left no stone unturned in their desperate quest to find Alex. Amid the frantic search efforts, whispers of Alex's past began circulating among the guests and staff. He had arrived at Azure Sands seeking solace from the recent loss of his father, a burden that weighed heavily on his shoulders, and it would seem that fate was unkind, thrusting him into a nightmare from which there was no easy escape. And despite his struggles, Alex's resilience and adventurous nature had touched the hearts of those around him, making his disappearance all the more poignant. Days turned into nights, each one dragging on with agonizing uncertainty. Alex remained elusive, his absence casting a shadow over the lively resort. It stood now as a solemn reminder of life's fragility and the unpredictable power of the ocean. Amidst the despair, the vacationers still held on to hope. The island sanctuary refused to succumb to darkness, rallying with newfound strength and unity. Though Alex's fate remained uncertain, his spirit lived on as a testament to the human capacity for resilience in tragedy. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Azure Sands vowed to endure. The search continued for 3 more days, but Alex was never found. Although Alex's holiday and his life journey were cut short, the lingering lesson served as a reminder that even in the darkest times, there was always light to compensate for it. Tyler James was a creature of the wind. His weather-beaten face and sun-bleached hair bore testament to countless hours spent chasing the perfect wave. Kiteboarding was his fix, a symphony of power and freedom that coursed through his veins. Today, the 22nd of March, 2003, was no different. He was miles offshore, chasing the gusts off the coast of Bahia, Brazil, a haven known for its vibrant waters and temperamental winds. Bahia was also infamous for another reason: its sharks. Bull sharks in particular thrived in the murky waters where rivers merged with the ocean. These aggressive predators were notorious for venturing into shallows, their stocky bodies perfectly designed for hunting near the coast. Tyler knew the risks, but the thrill always outweighed the fear. This morning began like any other. Tyler set out with his usual crew, a motley mix of locals and fellow adrenaline junkies. There was Enzo, a weathered, sinewy fisherman with a comprehensive knowledge of the currents. Then there was Maya, a fiery surf instructor with a laugh that rivaled the crashing waves. Despite his solitary nature, Tyler found a sense of belonging amidst this band of thrill-seekers. He spent the early hours riding the swells, carving lines across the water's surface, his kite a colorful arc against the endless sky. The wind shifted as the afternoon wore on, carrying him further offshore than intended. A sense of unease prickled him. He was out of sight of land, a lone dot in the vast ocean. Below the surface, life teemed. Tyler knew these weren't the sleek, cautious sharks of deeper waters. These were territorial hunters. Warmer freshwater, abundant fish, and less competition made this stretch of coast a bull shark's ideal feeding ground. Still, years of instinct had made him complacent. He could outrun anything lurking below, couldn't he? The adrenaline was an addictive tonic, the danger half the appeal. He hoisted his kite, caught a powerful gust, and soared across the water. It was then he saw it, a dark shadow circling below him. At first he dismissed it as a dolphin or a large fish, but its size and distinctive shape sent a chill through him. A bull shark, unmistakably giant and patrolling its territory. He had become the prey. Tyler's heart slammed against his ribs. The shark circled closer, its pale underbelly flashing beneath the waves. He tried to keep calm, maneuvering his kite to outrun the predator. But the wind was fickle and the shark effortlessly kept pace, its movements unnervingly fluid. His hands tightened on the control bar. He had to return to the boat, but panic threatened to overtake him. He was miles from help, and the sun began its relentless descent. The thought of being stranded in the open ocean after dark sent him a fresh wave of terror. Desperation fueled a burst of speed. He yanked hard on the bar, cutting a sharp turn to throw the shark off. The bull shark, however, was relentless. It mirrored his turn, its dark eye seeming to fixate on him with chilling intensity. Any illusion of being at the top of the food chain was shattered. The time they were fractured into heart-stopping fragments. His board skimmed the surface, and suddenly a monstrous shape shot upwards, breaching the water. Jaws clamped onto Tyler's lower leg, the force of the impact knocking him off the board. Icy water engulfed him as the shark thrashed, its teeth tearing into his flesh. Pain ripped through him, but adrenaline masked its full intensity. Instinctively, he fought back. He kicked and flailed his arms to dislodge the predator's grip. Somehow, miraculously, the shark released him, leaving behind a mangled mess where his calf used to be. He was a ragged, bleeding doll in the grip of the unforgiving ocean. He surfaced, choking back seawater and screaming. The shark lingered ominously close, circling him like a vulture. It was only a matter of time before it attacked again. He scrambled back onto his board, a pathetically small island in the swirling water. His ruined leg throbbed in relentless agony. Blood stained the water around him, a gruesome invitation to the predator lurking just below. Thankfully, his kite was still attached, but the wind had dwindled, leaving him bobbing helplessly. He scanned the distant horizon, praying for the sight of a boat, anything to break the maddening solitude. Nothing. The shark nudged his board experimentally. He kicked out instinctively, his movements weak against the surging nausea. Then the creature struck again, not for his leg, but for the board itself, clamping down in a frenzy of splintering wood and foam. The kite jerked upwards, dragging him sickeningly through the water before the line snapped. Adrift, defenseless, he watched his shattered board disappear into the depths. Hope bled out alongside his lifeblood, painting the darkening waves. The sun was dipping below the horizon, plunging the world into twilight. The shark wouldn't wait until night fell completely. The end should have come quickly. The shark kept him waiting, circling and bumping his body. Tyler was barely awake, his ruined leg burning with pain. He saw blurry shapes and the vast ocean felt ready to take him. But a miracle happened. A small dot appeared on the horizon, a boat. His cries were weak, but the ship grew more prominent, the sound of its engine getting louder. Enzo was driving, his face filled with surprise and worry. They pulled Tyler onto the boat, rough hands quickly making a bandage to stop the bleeding. Maya covered him with a blanket, trying to calm him down. The ride back was filled with pain and quiet words of support. The shore seemed forever away, but they finally reached it. An ambulance was waiting, its sirens screaming. He was taken to the hospital. They cleaned the horrible wound and sewed it shut. This would leave a terrible scar, reminding him of the shark. He spent weeks in the hospital having operations, his body covered in more angry scars. The doctors fought infection and he was always in pain. It took forever to get better. He had to learn to walk again. Bad dreams woke him up at night and the ocean was scary. He didn't think he could ever kiteboard again. The scars went deep. He kept to himself, the energy he used to have now gone. But he was alive. His body and spirit were hurt, but he lived. One day he could be brave enough to return to the ocean. But right now, it was enough to have survived. In the early 1900s, when cars were rare sights and the world moved slower, the cozy village of Seaview was nestled snugly against the wild coastline. You can picture it. Little cottages tucked snugly among the hilly dunes of grass and sand, their roofs sloping gently as if trying to catch the secrets whispered by the ocean breeze. Life in Seaview was as simple as dipping your toes in the calm waves and as lively as the seagulls continuously squabbling over fish scraps. But let's talk about the real gem of Seaview, the beach. Everyone who lived there, including those who visited, could undoubtedly testify that it was something out of a dream. It stretched on and on like a golden ribbon beside the endless blue of the ocean. The sand was warm beneath your feet, like a hug from the earth itself, inviting anyone who saw it to come and play. And play they did. Children scampered along the shore, their laughter dancing with the waves while families set up their picnics under colorful umbrellas. Just as well, the smell of the salty sea mingled with the promise of grilled fish from the harbor. Imagine a day like no other when the whole town buzzed like a hive of excited bees. How so? Because it was the day of the annual beach extravaganza, we christened the Wet, Wet, Wet Party. The sun hung high, painting everything in a glorious golden light as if even the heavens were celebrating. Along the boardwalk, vendors had set up shop, their colorful wares catching the eye of every passerby. And music. Indeed, the music swirled and danced on the breeze, coaxing even the shyest toes to tap along. Amidst the bustling crowd of beach lovers, 4 teenagers were as close as siblings and inseparable like the waves and the shore. First, there was Sarah, her hair ablaze like the setting sun. her laughter infectious as a summer breeze. Leading the pack with her boundless spirit for adventure, she was the spark that lit up their escapades. Then came Tom, tall and slim, always ready with a joke or a prank to bring smiles to their faces. His wit was as quick as the flash of a fish in the water, and his antics kept the group in stitches. Gentle yet daring, Emily had eyes that sparkled with the promise of new thrills. She was the first to leap into the unknown, her courage guiding them into uncharted waters. And finally there was Jack, the silent strength among them. With a calmness that mirrored the stillness of the ocean depths, he held their group steady through every storm, his loyalty unwavering. They were on a well-deserved vacation, and as the day wore on and the sun beat down relentlessly, the four sought solace in the cool embrace of the sea. From day to day, they would jump in freely and relish a swim. This was usually the highlight of their daily itinerary. Once in the water, it seemed the holiday would never end. With shouts of joy, they would paddle in the clear waters, their laughter blending with the rhythm of the waves. But sadly, on the last day of their trip, their carefree bliss was shattered by a scream that sliced through the air like a jagged bolt of lightning. In an instant, the scene transformed from one of joy to one of terror. Sarah, Tom, Emily, and Jack, once frolicking in the waves, now found themselves caught in the jaws of a monstrous shark predator lurking beneath the surface. Panic seized the onlookers as the water turned crimson, the chilling reality sinking in with each passing moment. And in just 7 heart-wrenching minutes, the lives of the 4 young friends were tragically snuffed out by the merciless jaws of the shark. The vibrant beach fell silent, its sands now heavy with grief as the community of tourists grappled with the tragedy that just unfolded before them and the enormity of their loss. Seaview became a town cloaked in sorrow in the wake of the accident. The heavy weight of grief hung thick in the air for days on end, wrapping around families like a suffocating blanket. Hearts once full of laughter and hope now cracked under unimaginable loss. Once alive with laughter and play, the beach stood silent and sad, its once inviting shores bearing the scars of tragedy. But even in the depths of despair, a glimmer of hope shimmered through the darkness. Fueled by a fierce determination to find answers in the face of such a senseless tragedy, the townsfolk united in a quest for justice. Guided by the anguished cries of grieving parents, they pledged to track down the creature responsible for stealing away the 4 young adults, armed with little more than fishing rods and unwavering resolve. Days blurred into weeks as the relentless pursuit carried on. Each sunrise brought a renewed determination to seek justice for the fallen. Despite false leads and harrowing encounters, they refused to falter, their spirits buoyed by memories of those they had lost and an unyielding desire for closure. As the months passed, a newfound understanding of shark behavior began to take root. Experts from other towns lent their wisdom, shedding light on the enigmatic creatures lurking beneath the waves. Although their knowledge was rudimentary and born of necessity and desperation, it marked the dawn of a new chapter in the timeless struggle between man and beast. After months of relentless pursuit, the hunters finally cornered the elusive predator, having used quite a considerable amount of resources through bait. Finally, it was right there in front of them, trapped in an improvised cage. With hearts pounding and hands shaking, they prepared to deliver the final blow. But in that crucial moment, something unexpected occurred. One of the cage wranglers suddenly began doubting their motives for being on the trail of this shark for close to 3 months. And all for what? To effect revenge. Indeed, it didn't seem fair to them, not least to the lives that had been lost. He voiced his concerns, and as they all stared into the shark's cold, unyielding gaze, a wave of emotion swept over them. In the silent depths of the ocean, they saw not just a mindless killer, but a clueless creature struggling to survive in a world where it was increasingly out of place. It was only one more deadly beast among so many others. At that instant, it was unanimous. The shark had to die, and for a consolation, the trappers realized it wouldn't mind being snuffed out. It didn't have the faculty of a rational conscience like humans did, and this was a revelation that would forever reshape their understanding of the natural world of animals. Ultimately, they harpooned the shark. Once they were sure it had breathed its last, they retrieved the harpoon and left the shark to decompose where it was. Afterward, they gave it a final look. They even took some pictures as evidence for the sake of the families of the deceased young adults. Even though the scars of the tragedy would always linger, the community emerged from the ordeal more robust and united than ever before. As years passed, the memory of the Seaview tragedy of the 1900s faded into history, but its lessons endured. It stood as a solemn reminder of life's fragility and humanity's capacity for resilience. The events of that fateful day became a testament to the power of community in times of hardship. And so, life in the coastal town of Seaview continued, forever changed by past events, yet unwavering in their determination to find joy amidst adversity. Eli Carter lived for the rush. Surfing wasn't just his sport, it was his identity. He craved the adrenaline, the dance with waves that could both propel and pulverize. Today, the 23rd of July 2007, was a day he'd marked on his calendar for months. He was on a pilgrimage to the remote islands of French Polynesia, rumored to have some of the world's most challenging waves. Makatea, the island he chose, was a speck of volcanic rock and lush greenery in the vastness of the Pacific. It boasted untouched reefs that promised barreling waves and the solitude Eli craved. The local villages were small and quaint, and the islanders eyed him with curiosity and wariness. They warned him of the currents, the winds, and most importantly, the sharks. Blacktip reef sharks, while smaller than their infamous cousins, were still predators to be respected. These waters teemed with fish, a buffet for sleek, hungry sharks patrolling the deeper channels. Eli brushed off the locals' concerns. He'd surfed with sharks before, part of the risk, part of the thrill. The sun beat down as he scanned the horizon, the anticipation buzzing through him. He was a skilled surfer, honed by years spent chasing waves on the wild coasts of California. Yet here, he felt like an outsider venturing into another creature's domain. The first few waves were exhilarating, robust tubes that spit him into the bright sunshine. But the ocean holds fickle energy today. The sets came irregularly, and a strange current seemed to tug at him, pulling him further away from the known safety of the shoreline. He spotted a promising wave building far out, a monster wall of water. Eli turned and paddled with everything he had. He caught the wave just before it crested, dropping down its steep face, the thrill washing through him. But as he carved through the bottom turn, he saw them, a shiver of dark shapes below the surface. Not one, not two, but a whole pack of reef sharks, their sleek forms cutting through the clear water. His stomach clenched. This wasn't a casual encounter, this was their territory, and he was the intruder. Panic threatened to choke him. The sharks circled below, growing bolder with each pass. His surfboard, once his tool for conquering waves, now felt like a flimsy barrier against this onslaught. Every instinct screamed at him to paddle back to shore, but the treacherous current kept him hopelessly within their reach. Survival mode kicked in. Eli knew that splashing and frantic movements would only incite the sharks. He forced himself to stay on his board, his body rigid with tension. The sharks came closer, bumping his board and testing its buoyancy. With each impact, he tensed, his vision prickling at the edges. Their numbers seemed to increase. He shouted, desperate to scare them off, but the endless waves and vast open sky swallowed his voice. His cries morphed into a choked sob. Was this how he was going to die, mauled and alone, miles from any help? One particularly bold shark lunged upwards. Eli instinctively kicked out, connecting solidly with its sleek body. The shark recoiled, but its retreat was momentary. It was encouraged. He had shown vulnerability. The pack surged forward, a flurry of snapping jaws and thrashing tails. His board was bucked violently, and Eli was tossed into the churning water. He surfaced, spitting out salt water, the taste of fear metallic in his mouth. The sharks were upon him in seconds, a writhing mass of teeth and fins. Blindly, he struck out, landing a lucky blow on a snout. A wave crashed over them, momentarily separating him from his attackers. He clawed back onto his battered board, using the swell to his advantage. But the sharks were relentless. They quickly tore chunks off his board, forcing him further toward the unforgiving reef. A wave sent him tumbling again. His legs scraped against sharp coral, leaving a searing trail of pain. Blood blossomed in the water, a crimson invitation. He kicked at the sharks surrounding him, more out of desperation than any real hope of defense. His arms ached and his lungs burned. How much longer could he hold them off? Then a shape like an arrow shot through the water. It was a dolphin weaving through the sharks with astonishing speed and agility. Confused by this sudden interloper, the sharks scattered in momentary confusion. Seizing the opportunity, Eli began to swim, summoning every ounce of strength, his injured leg throbbing. The dolphin mirrored his path as if escorting him out of a battle zone. Behind him, he could see the sharks regrouping, their frenzy renewed. Yet somehow, inexplicably, he reached the shallows. The sharp coral gouged his skin, but he felt an agonizing safety. Collapsing onto the rough sand, he sobbed, the pain of his wounds secondary to the overwhelming shock. Alerted by the commotion, fishermen from the nearby village reached him soon after. Their arrival was miraculous. A small boat appeared as a speck amidst the vastness of the open water. Rough but kind hands pulled him from the shallows, grunting with the effort of lifting his dead weight. Back on shore, the villagers tended to his wounds with practiced ease. Strips of cloth became makeshift bandages. Herbal balm soothed his coral gashes, and whispered words offered a strange blend of comfort and awe. News of his ordeal spread like wildfire, and soon he was surrounded by faces etched with concern and disbelief. In broken English, they shared their stories of close encounters, friends lost, and respect offered to the powerful creatures that shared their island home. In the end, the ocean itself saved him. A dolphin, another ocean creature recognizing the unjustness of the attack. The villagers nodded. Such tales were part of their legends, of a deep, unspoken alliance between the creatures of the sea. His return journey home was a blur. There were flights, hospitals, surgeries, an endless cycle of sterile rooms and sharp, sterile pain. Recovery stretched into months. He bore the scars proudly, mangled marks on his leg and a jagged line on his arm, a testament to both his survival and the ocean's raw power. He learned to surf again, every paddle out a small act of defiance. The knowledge of the sharks was a constant companion, not fear exactly, but a bone-deep awareness. His carefree joy was tempered by caution, his once boundless playground now tinged with a hint of menace. Yet he returned to the waves because the ocean, despite its brutality, was in his blood. The thrill, the challenge, the dance with nature. It was a pull he couldn't and wouldn't deny.